Turns out we have some ways to solve the time travel paradoxes. Time travel sounds enticing, but brings with us a lot of problems. Take, for example, the famous grandfather paradox. Imagine that you travel back in time and prevent your grandparents from meeting. This alters the course of history. But how? If you erase their encounter, you cease to exist, so you couldn't even travel back in time to alter the past in the first place. There's also the bootstrap paradox. Let's say we travel back in time and give Beethoven his own compositions before he ever penned them. He gets famous for the very music you provided. But where did it originate? Did you start it? Or was it Beethoven who started it? There are many theories about time travel. One of them involves alternate timelines and parallel universes, like in Back to the Future, for example. If parallel worlds exist, we could hypothetically travel in one where the events unfolded differently, while our original timeline stays the same. This is a beautiful and paradox-free approach, but this is pure sci-fi, as we have no concrete evidence of parallel universes. So what scientists are trying to do instead is to figure out whether time travel is impossible in this one universal timeline. We've been exploring this equation for over a decade and created a fascinating concept called a closed time-like curve, or CTC. Imagine taking a path that forms a loop, bringing it back to where it started, but in time. We know that spacetime is like a wobbly piece of cloth which can curve and bend when we place heavy objects on it. In some situations, like near massive objects such as stars or black holes, spacetime can be curved. Now imagine an object that's so heavy, with gravity curving the spacetime so strongly that it literally loops on itself. If this idea turns out to be real, it could suggest the possibility of traveling back in time in our world line. This possibility is fascinating, but it also creates tons of problems, and scientists may have found the ways to solve them. One of the solutions is that doing paradoxical things can be simply impossible. In this scenario, we assume that the universe has some mechanisms of self-consistency. It means that while you can still travel in time, you're restricted in the actions you can take. For example, you may not be able to go back and alter your family's history, but there's nothing inherently illogical about traveling back in time to simply interact with your ancestors. In this scenario, the universe only forbids you to do logically impossible things. Scientists decided to conduct an experiment to check if it works, and the results were pretty terrifying. The experiment conducted involved the creation of a theoretical time machine. This is also called an in-principle time machine. This wasn't a physical device, but rather a quantum simulation. In the simulation, they attempted to send a photon back in time by a fraction of a second and make it interact with its past self. The goal was to find out what the photon will do. Will it destroy its previous self, avoid the interaction, or something else? What happened is that as the photon approached its past self and was getting closer to the point of creating a paradox, the experiment tended to fail more frequently. In other words, it seems like the laws of physics or the fabric of the universe might have some weird built-in mechanisms that prevent time travel paradoxes. In that case, the question is, how does the universe understand what is logically impossible? And how does it prevent us from doing these things? Which is quite scary to think about. There's another theory that the universe allows paradoxical things to happen, but also self-corrects them. Imagine a time traveler going back to stop some health condition from spreading. According to this theory, even if the traveler succeeds, this health condition would find another way to spread, avoiding the paradox. Or maybe we all exist in time loops. These loops allow objects to interact with their past selves while still maintaining a consistent timeline, because there's no beginning point. For example, trying to prevent a historical event could result in accidentally catalyzing the event we were trying to prevent. This idea challenges our understanding of classical physics and free will. But all these ideas are purely theoretical, and to test them, we first need to find the mechanism to actually travel back in time. Talking about practical time travel, we mentioned that space-time curves around very heavy objects. Does it mean that black holes can be portals to the past and the future? Maybe. Black holes are formed when a massive star collapses inward. Their gravitational pull is so intense that even light can't escape. This means they're perfect for bending not just space, but even time itself. You might remember this from Interstellar. Near a black hole, time slows down. This effect is so pronounced that a year near a black hole could translate to decades on Earth. In that case, traveling back to the past using a black hole is theoretically possible. If their gravity twists time so much that it wraps back on itself, creating a closed time-like curve, and you could enter this loop, you'd find yourself on a journey from the future to the past. But there are some problems with this. First, you can only travel into the black hole's past. Second, to enter the loop, you'd likely have to cross the event horizon, the point of no return around a black hole. To escape one, you'd have to travel faster than light, which is currently impossible. So, while black holes might hold the keys to time travel, the journey inside one might be your last. But not everyone agrees that closed time-like curves exist at all. Recent research has shed new light on this topic. The results showed that time can only move forward. The research offered a fresh perspective on how light behaves when it encounters different materials. When light moves through empty space, it travels at a constant speed of 186,000 miles per second. But when it encounters substances like water or glass, its speed can change, causing it to bend or refract. While scientists have equations to describe this behavior, they struggled with the problem of the change of the speed of light at the boundary in different mediums. Well, researchers proposed a solution to this puzzle by reconsidering how light moves through time and space. They figured out that it always remains constant as it travels through different mediums. No matter what the light encounters, it always moves forward in time. This means that light and other waves like it follow the same one-way path through time that we do. Another thing is that light also always saves its momentum, and it always stays the same, pointing forward in time. And finally, even with general relativity and with gravity bending light very strongly, it still keeps pointing forward. It can slow down to the point of feeling like time stopped, but never move backwards. This challenges our previous notions about the relationship between light and time. It implies that time has a definite direction for all waves, making it impossible to reverse. However, their equations have only been tested in one dimension, and experiments are needed to confirm if this theory holds true in reality. Stephen Hawking also disagreed with the idea of traveling back in time. He proposed a theory called the chronology protection conjecture. This idea says that the laws of physics stop time travel on large scales, even when theories like general relativity say it's possible, and that closed time-like curves simply can't exist. Hawking said that traveling back in time would mean creating new matter, which goes against the laws of physics. Although we're far from building actual time machines, if we keep diving into mathematics, we might find the truth one day. You know how Stephen Hawking said, the best evidence we have that time travel is not possible, and never will be, is that we have not been invaded by hordes of tourists from the future. But what if these tourists come to our time, but they do it secretly? You may even have met one of them. Let's see the most famous time travelers. Meet Orin. He's a cyborg who came to us from the year 2050 to stop the coming end of the world. In 2020, he appeared on a TV show where he said the whole world was inside the Matrix. Then he hit the headlines and gave an interview to a popular YouTube channel. As proof that he's a cyborg, he demonstrated his robotic voice, which can be made in a simple computer program. He also called himself We because he declared himself a collective consciousness that had come to save humanity. Oren became famous for his predictions about the near future, but it turned out that many experts had already announced these forecasts earlier. He also said that a huge corporation was suppressing humanity, and we were inside a complex computer simulation. If we don't improve or care for each other and nature, the end will begin in 2050. Oren no longer appears on major shows, but he has a small fan base of people who love all sorts of fantastic theories. Another time traveler is Adam Archin, who came to us from 2045. There was an interview with him on YouTube where he shared some details about the future of the US, after which the video went viral and hit the lines in many newspapers. Archin reported that the last official president of the country would be the daughter of Martin Luther King III, and she would become the greatest US president in history. Another exciting event that Archin announced is supposed to happen in 2028. He said that people would learn about the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. He added that these creatures wouldn't come from outer space. The traveler also noted that the world would switch to a single digital currency and all cash would disappear. Of course, no one believed him, so the experts conducted a lie detector test. And Adam Archin successfully passed it. He said that he had a chip in his hand to facilitate time travel. An extraterrestrial civilization would arrive on Earth in 2028, and in 2045, people would be closer to robots. The lie detector didn't state that Archin was lying, but this doesn't mean he told the truth, since the device can be deceived with the help of special training. In any case, in 2028, we will find out whether Archin was right or not. All these time travelers arrive in the past and, for some reason, don't use knowledge from the future. What would you do if you could go back 50 years? Perhaps you would invest money in shares of some young company that will become a big, expensive corporation. In that case, everyone would believe that you really came from the past. And by the way, one guy did it. He invested $800 in the stock exchange and made $350 million out of it. This guy's name was Andrew Carlson, and he hit a big jackpot in 2003. However, he didn't manage to enjoy a rich life because the FBI came for him. Andrew sold some stocks and bought others, and did this very successfully. Thus, in a few months, he became a millionaire. The Securities Commission couldn't believe in such coincidences, so it called the FBI. During the interrogation, everyone was sure Andrew would begin to justify himself and say he was lucky. But instead, he calmly replied that he came from the year 2256 with the help of a time machine. Of course, no one took it seriously. But when the FBI started looking for information about this man, they found nothing. Andrew Carlson had no documents. He was not in any database. He just appeared out of nowhere and started making a lot of money. He was interrogated for about 4 hours, and he behaved pretty calmly. It seemed as if he was telling the truth. However, he didn't tell them the time machine's location. When the press found out about this man, he immediately became a celebrity. Well-known news sites began to write about Andrew Carlson. Articles have appeared in Japan, Australia, Germany, the UK, and other countries. And of course, journalists started calling the FBI to find out more details about this guy. And the FBI told them that the whole story was fiction and that there was no Andrew Carlson. Information about him appeared on an internet resource known for its fake news. At some point, the article about the time traveler somehow got into Yahoo, where it went viral. So, as we see, all statements about time travelers are either fiction or a lie. Conversations about such travels appeared thanks to fantastic films and books. Pop culture has greatly influenced this fantastic concept and created several theories claiming that time travel is real. And some people believe that, especially those who are far from science. But what do real scientists think about this? Are such trips really possible? Let's try to find out. Scientists say yes, time travel is real because we're now traveling in time. Time is moving forward, and we're moving with it. We call it a journey. But if we need to get into the future or go back to the past, everything is much more complicated here. Remember Einstein's little theory of relativity? It says that time moves relative to the observer and has no constant value. To understand better, here's a simple example. 10 hairs on your head. Is it a lot or a little? 10 hairs in a bowl of soup. Is that a lot or a little? Everything is relative and depends on the conditions. The same thing happens with time and space. If we move at a tremendous speed, close to the speed of light, then time slows down for us. The perception of time becomes different for a person who's running and for one who's standing still. If we're near some heavy object, let's say 1,000 times heavier than the sun, then the time next to this object also slows down, thanks to its strong gravity. In this sense, time travel is possible. If you're an old person and meet your friend as young as he was 50 years ago. Why are you so young? Oh, I've been flying in space at a tremendous speed all this time, that's all. But this doesn't mean that this friend just sat on the ship for 50 years and didn't age. No, time was different for him. 10 years for you on Earth is a long period of time, but for him, these 10 years passed like half an hour. Gravity and speed bend time. For this reason, astronaut Scott Kelly, who spent a year and a half in orbit, became 5 milliseconds younger than his twin brother after coming to Earth. All this time Scott spent inside the ship flying in orbit at high speed, and he was also further away from the gravitational center of the planet. So, time was slower for him by 5 milliseconds than for his brother. Objectively, time always runs at the same speed, but its speed changes inside the perceptions of different observers under different conditions. That's what the theory of relativity is about. But what about jumping into the future or the past, like in movies? Wormholes will help you with this. This is something like tunnels that pass through space and time and can connect different time segments in different places in the universe. They are like cheat codes that can break the laws of the universe. Wormholes are elusive, have different sizes, are unpredictable, appear in space, and vanish. But their main problem is that wormholes only exist in theory and sci-fi and have never been noticed in our universe by scientists.
Guess what? The universe can get actual scars, just like when you fall off a bike. Well, here's why. Before the Big Bang, the universe was extremely hot, dense, and full of energy, and it seemed like everything was going well, until that all changed about 13.8 billion years ago. Then the universe exploded. After the blast, it expanded incredibly quickly. Our human brain can't even perceive how fast that expansion was. Sometime later, the universe started cooling down. As it did, giant, terrifying scars cutting through space-time appeared all over the place. And if we study these scars well, we can even get insight into time travel. These days, we call these scars cosmic strings. They're like stretch marks that appear when the skin expands too quickly. Or we could also compare them to cracks that form in the ice when it freezes. These strings are likely very thin, about the size of a proton, a positively charged subatomic particle. Yes, subatomic means smaller than an atom. The strings are also extremely dense and can stretch for light years. Now, imagine these cosmic scars floating through space, not interacting much with their surroundings. When two cosmic strings pass each other, they could warp space-time in such a way that it creates a time machine. If you were to travel along a certain path around these strings, you would end up returning to your starting point at an earlier time, which is traveling back in time. Now, let's admit it, this idea sounds like something from science fiction, but it's supported by cosmic string theory, and the math behind it seems to work. Unfortunately, no one has observed cosmic strings yet, so for now, it's still a theory. In 1991, one physicist proposed an idea for how cosmic strings could enable time travel. If two infinite cosmic strings passed each other in parallel, they would warp space-time, creating a time loop. This loop would allow someone to travel back in time. Even better, this idea doesn't contradict Einstein's theory of general relativity, which suggests that large objects can bend space and time. These bends in space-time could allow a shortcut through time. His now well-known concept of closed time loops also helps explain how wormholes might work. So, a wormhole is basically a theoretical tunnel connecting one place in space to another. Some people believe that by using such tunnels, we could create shortcuts for incredibly long journeys through the universe, which would allow us to visit other star systems and galaxies. So, let's say you manage to create a wormhole and even accelerate one of its ends to near the speed of light, and then you send it back to where it came from. Well, at that moment, those two ends are not synced anymore. One is in the past, while the other is in the future. And if you somehow manage to walk between them, you'd be time traveling. You could do something similar by placing one end of the wormhole near a powerful gravitational field, like a black hole, and keeping the other side near a weaker gravitational force. This way, according to the theory of relativity, time would pass more slowly nearer to the strong gravity side, and it would allow a particle or another chunk of mass to remain in the past relative to the other side of the wormhole. At the same time, if you decided to create a wormhole, you'd have to keep in mind that they are super dangerous. They might collapse all of a sudden. They're likely to be highly radioactive, or you could come into contact with toxic exotic matter inside. But let's get back to the math behind the cosmic string time machine idea. Admittedly, it is solid, but it doesn't mean such a time machine is possible yet. To use this way of time travel, we'd need to reach near light speed, and it might be impossible. According to Einstein's relativity, the faster an object travels, the more energy it needs to continue speeding up. In other words, we don't yet have the technology or energy sources to accelerate a spacecraft to these speeds. The idea of two infinite cosmic strings is also questionable because we can't create something that's infinitely long. So, while this time travel model is mathematically sound, the infinite nature of the strings would make this exact model impractical. At the same time, some scientists still believe that cosmic strings are a better possibility than most other models, like wormholes. In any case, before we can start considering time travel, we need to discover cosmic strings. Luckily, there's a group of astronomers working to detect low-frequency gravitational waves by measuring signals from a type of star called a pulsar. Now, pulsars send out regular pulses of radio waves, and by measuring small changes in the timing of these pulses, scientists can detect subtle shifts in space-time. Those changes are caused by gravitational waves, which are ripples in space-time. Now, so far, we've only detected gravitational waves coming from black holes. But in 2020, there was one strange signal that didn't look like it came from black holes. It could be coming from cosmic strings. And here, we need to mention string theory. According to it, the universe is made up of more than just the 4 dimensions of space-time. There are additional dimensions that are hidden from us. Plus, the basic building blocks of the universe aren't particles, but tiny vibrating strings. These strings can vibrate at different frequencies to create different fundamental particles. These strings, from string theory, could have stretched out during the early universe and become the very cosmic strings we've discussed. In the coming years, we might get more information about them from a space-based gravitational wave telescope called LISA. It's supposed to launch in 2035. But if the signals picked up in 2020 really came from cosmic strings, it could mean a huge breakthrough in physics. In this case, string theory would become the right framework for understanding the universe. It would completely change the way we think about the building blocks of our reality. On the other hand, even if the signals don't turn out to be from cosmic strings, this discovery would still be important. It would give scientists more information on what cosmic string signals might look like in the future, And while we're not yet at the point of time travel, the discovery of cosmic strings could take us one step closer to understanding the mysteries of the universe and maybe even the possibility of traveling through time. Now, time travel is a popular theme in science fiction, but in fact, moving forward in time happens naturally. Right now, you are traveling into the future at a steady rate of 1 second per second. However, scientists have discovered that this rate can change depending on speed and gravity. Einstein's special theory of relativity explains that time slows down as an object moves faster. The closer you get to the speed of light, the more slowly time passes for you, compared to someone who isn't moving at all. The general theory of relativity adds another factor, gravity. The stronger the gravitational pull, the more slowly time moves. Near massive objects, such as the surface of a neutron star, black hole, or even Earth, time runs more slowly than it does far away from these space objects. If someone were to stay near the edge of a black hole, where gravity is incredibly strong, only a few hours might pass for them, while thousands of years would go by for people on Earth. If they returned, they would have effectively traveled into the future. This is a real and scientifically proven effect. A real-life example of time travel, though on a tiny scale, can be witnessed in space missions. For example, this cosmonaut spent a total of 748 days aboard the space station Mir during 3 separate missions. Because Mir was moving at high speeds relative to Earth, it experienced time dilation. As a result, he aged 0.02 of a second less than had he stayed on the ground. Now, this difference may seem tiny, but it shows that time moves differently depending on speed and location. But while traveling to the future is scientifically possible, traveling to the past is much more complicated and controversial, and leads to logical paradoxes. Imagine you throw a billiard ball into a time machine. It travels to the past and collides with its earlier self. This prevents the ball from ever entering the time machine in the first place. A contradiction.
Can we power spaceships using black holes? Kinda. Exploring our galaxy is a bit problematic. Our fastest spacecraft ever, NASA's Parker Solar Probe, only travels at about 0.06% the speed of light. So it would take around 7,700 years for us to reach even our closest neighbor star, Proxima Centauri. Therefore, we need to find a way to achieve super high velocity without wasting too much fuel. Why don't we consider powering spacecraft using radiation from black holes? Natural black holes are too massive for us to harness. However, during the early stages of the universe, there might have been very small black holes known as primordial ones. Perhaps we could attempt to recreate them. In order to do so, we would need to concentrate a massive amount of energy on a minuscule point. Imagine a mass of about 1 million tons with a radius of a few attometers. Scientists have devised a method to accomplish this. By collecting a vast amount of the sun's energy using solar panels, directing it towards a single point, surrounding it with collectors to capture the emitted energy, and utilizing its radiation to power a spaceship. What a brilliant plan! As for the implementation, we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds. Scientists in Japan have developed artificial wombs that can nurture premature baby sharks. They help embryos to be prepared to be born properly. These artificial wombs can power little sharks for almost a year. This is much longer than their previous record of 160 days. The invention actually works. Some embryos grew from 1.2 to almost 6 inches, which is their natural birth size. Premature sharks are very vulnerable because the seawater is too salty for their little bodies. This is especially dangerous for viviparous sharks because their young ones are born without a protective shell. So what scientists did is they put them in these containers and started slowly decreasing natural fluids and gradually increasing the seawater until babies got used to the salt. The results are still not perfect though. Out of 33 embryos, only 3 reached birth size. However, these 3 are healthy and now live like any normal baby shark. They munched on some minced mackerel and shrimp and behaved typically for their age. The end goal of all this research, of course, is to develop more universal systems for wider use. Sensing a hug over the internet might soon be possible, using e-skin. Researchers at City University of Hong Kong have developed a wireless, soft e-skin that can detect and deliver the sense of touch. This creates a touch network for multi-user interaction. The e-skin can both sense touch and imitate it. We had similar technologies like that before, with VR for example, but not both of them at the same time. Here's how it works. You press an actuator, and it generates an electrical signal. This signal is converted into a digital signal by an analog to digital converter. Then it's sent via Bluetooth to another e-skin. The receiving e-skin converts the signal back into an electrical current, and it recreates the touch sensation through vibrations. Finally, long-distance friends and family could use technology to feel each other. This technology might also help visually impaired people with directions and reading Braille messages. Now, imagine being able to 3D print literal bones. This is a new technology that helps us create synthetic bones with living cells. It uses a special ink that mimics natural bone. First, you create a model, like a custom bone design. Then the printer uses ceramic ink in a gelatin bath, extruding it layer by layer. You 3D print this thing at room temperature. Then, the printed bone material hardens and integrates with existing bone tissue, and voila! Still, there are some problems left to solve. For example, make sure that there won't be any immune reactions, make the material stronger, and so on. By the way, in Mumbai, there's a startup that has created helpful 3D models of organs for over 1,200 operations already. And the technology will only keep improving. The next goals are to add blood vessels to ensure nutrients and oxygen reach the tissue and develop smart materials that will change depending on the environment. In the future, you might have a digital copy of your body to track your health. A digital twin is a virtual model of a physical object that not only looks like the object, but also behaves like it. To be fair, it doesn't have to be a full-blown copy of you. It can be something simple, like a copy of a heart. Unlike a simple 3D model, a digital twin must show how all parts of the object interact with each other. It will show all components and their interactions, not just the shape or appearance. Looking at them will help doctors understand and improve health outcomes better by tweaking random parameters and seeing how the condition changes. For example, recently, researchers created digital twins of patients' hearts. The model showed the heart's structure and damage, things like scars and all that. They also had a simulation of the heart's electrical activity. They tried sending signals through the digital twin, looked at how it behaved, and were able to predict issues like arrhythmias. What if your walls could eat sunlight during the day and use the accumulated energy to power the building at night? Buildings literally powering themselves? Check out the energy-storing bricks. They can be built in walls among regular bricks, capture extra renewable energy, stabilize the power grid, and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. They use a type of concrete that can store electricity and power devices. These bricks can turn the red pigment in standard bricks into conductive plastic, which can store and release tons of charge. Pair them with solar panels, and voila! Lots of clean energy, which also works even in case of power outage. And they're pretty affordable as well. People could also use them to create portable and flexible devices powered by these bricks, such as wearable electronics, sensors, or displays that attach to clothes and stuff. Potentially, these bricks could be 3D printed and mass-produced. China has developed a groundbreaking car battery that can get fully charged in just 10 minutes. Moreover, it could power a car for hundreds of miles before needing to be plugged in again, all thanks to recent great advancements in chemistry. Chemists found a way to store much more energy. The latest batteries can enable cars to travel 250 miles on a single charge, and newer versions can achieve up to 600 miles per charge. In the future, this could make electric cars much more efficient and convenient. You'd think it sounds nice and dandy, but there's a catch. If there are any disruptions due to extreme weather, trade disputes, or anything else, people will be screwed. It's not like you can go and ask your neighbor to lend you gasoline. Electric cars might not be able to get the batteries they need. Anyone who drives an electric car to work would be stuck, and the prices would skyrocket. There's also a weird type of battery that is made of sand. Finnish engineers filled a large steel container measuring 13 by 23 feet with 100 tons of sand. They then heated the sand using wind and solar energy. This method allows energy to be stored for months. In a battery like this, electricity used to heat air in a special system of pipes. The hot air then flows through these pipes to warm up the sand. This generated heat can be used as energy. This is called resistive heating. Sometimes, new technologies can be both amazing and a little creepy. That's definitely the case with Necrobiotics. This involves turning things that passed away into robots. It might sound like a horror movie plot, but researchers at Rice University think it will be super useful. A team at Rice University has turned a deceased spider into a robot-like gripper that can pick up objects. They do this by injecting air into the spider. Spiders use hydraulics to move their limbs, forcing their version of blood into their legs to make them extend. These necrobiotic grippers could be used in delicate tasks where traditional robotic parts might be too bulky or rough.
Okay, so you've seen the movies and read the books on time travel. Most of them tell stories about entering some futuristic boxes, and in the blink of an eye, you're in some different epoch. For now, this is just sci-fi. But there are ways to make time travel possible, at least theoretically. We just don't have the technology figured out yet. For starters, time travel to the future could be achieved by traveling at high speeds, but not just getting a ticket on the superhighway kind of speed. This is based on Einstein's theory of special relativity. It explains that time slows down for objects that move at really high speeds. And the good news is scientists have already tested this theory, and it looks promising. They did it with the help of two identical clocks. One was placed on a jet, and one stayed on the ground. They found that the clock on the jet ticked slower than the one on the ground because of how fast the jet was moving. The faster an object is moving, the more time will slow down for it. Currently, the fastest speeds achieved by human technology are seen in a special type of particles called neutrinos. Some of these can move at almost the speed of light. At these speeds, 1 second for the protons is equal to 11 months for us. Now, we might be able to time travel to the future with the use of gravity, too. This idea is based on Einstein's findings, namely his theory of general relativity. Now, this theory explains that the stronger gravity is, the more slowly time moves. This means that as you get closer to the center of the Earth, the strength of gravity increases. And if you think about it like that, time actually passes more slowly for your feet than for your head. Now, is that why I'm always late for stuff? Good excuse. This effect has been measured too, with the help of the same strategy with two identical clocks. Scientists placed them on shelves at different heights and measured the rate of ticking. The clock on the lower shelf ticked more slowly because it experienced a slightly stronger gravity. But this option comes with a catch. To be able to travel to the far future, you'll need to find a place with extremely strong gravity, like a black hole. That's a point in space where the gravity has so much force that even light cannot escape it. There, gravity becomes so intense that matter gets squeezed into a tiny space. The closer you get to the black hole, the more slowly time moves. However, traveling via a black hole is very dangerous, mostly because it's a one-way ticket. Once you cross its edges, there's no coming back. Now, here's a fun fact. The GPS systems we use on our phones and in our cars already have to account for time dilation effects in order to work properly. That's because of the speed of the satellites they use and the gravity they feel here on Earth. Without these corrections, your phone's GPS wouldn't be able to pinpoint your location on Earth very precisely. Meanwhile, the third option has less to do with the universe's unknown forces and more to do with our own bodies. Scientists are trying to find ways to time travel to the future by slowing down the body's own processes. It's not time travel per se. You wouldn't technically be going anywhere. But if your body stays put for a long period of time, you could eventually wake up in the future. Some animals, like bears and squirrels, can slow down their metabolism during hibernation, which means they don't need as much food and oxygen to survive. Specialists are trying to figure out if humans can do the same thing. They're working on ways to make people go into a short-term hibernation for a few hours to begin with. This could be helpful for medical emergencies too, in order to help a person before they can safely get to the hospital. In 2005, scientists were able to slow down the metabolism of mice by exposing them to a small amount of special gas. However, when they tried to do the same thing with larger animals, it did not work as effectively. Our fourth option of traveling through time is really unique. It involves a special type of shortcuts that may exist in our universe called wormholes. Now, before we move on, let's try to understand what they are. You'll need to picture two balls and a trampoline. If there's no pressure applied on the trampoline, it stays flat. Now imagine the two balls placed on the trampoline symmetrically. If you look at them from this perspective, there's no possibility of them ever touching. But if you put enough pressure on the trampoline between the two balls, this flexible fabric can stretch so much that the two objects might potentially touch each other. The same thing happens with stars in different star systems. They're big enough to curve space around them. That's why most planets tend to orbit around a star. The tunnel between those 2 points would be a wormhole. These wormholes could be used to travel long distances, like 1 billion light-years, or even visit different times. Now, many scientists, like Stephen Hawking, think that wormholes might appear and disappear, but be very small, smaller than atoms. The problem is that we don't know how to catch one and make it bigger so that people can use it. This would take a lot of energy, and we don't know if it's even possible. Some astronomers say that even if we could find a wormhole and enter it, it would rapidly collapse on itself. Even the tiniest bit of extra mass, like that of our bodies for example, can result in the wormhole slamming shut, like a rubber band that's been stretched too much. Now, the fifth solution for time traveling was proposed by an American physicist named Ron Mallet. It involves one resource that we know for sure is abundant in the universe: light. The scientist proposed a theory about time travel that would use a rotating cylinder of light. He believes that if something was dropped inside this swirling cylinder, it could be moved in both space and time, similar to how a bubble moves when you swirl it with a spoon in your coffee. According to Mallet, the right shape of the cylinder could allow for traveling to both the past and the future. The physicist has been trying to raise money for an experiment to test his theory. This experiment involves dropping tiny particles, called neutrons, through a circular arrangement of spinning lasers. However, other scientists say Mallet's theory is impossible and there's no need to test it further. Well, even if we eventually figured out a way to travel back in the past or to the future, would it be safe? Scientists have been talking about a problem called the paradox of time travel for a long time. The main question is what would happen if you went back in time and did something that changed the future. However, a new study from researchers from the University of Queensland says that this problem might not be real after all. The scientists have done some calculations and found out that even if you had changed something in the past, the timeline would still end up the same way. Another variation of this problem is called the grandfather paradox. Imagine going back in time and preventing your own grandfather from having offspring. Come to think of it, it automatically means you shouldn't exist in the first place. If your grandparents didn't have your parents, how can you exist at all? Well, these days scientists are certain that even if you did experience something like that, you'd still exist in the present. That's because the timeline that already exists has a way of adjusting itself, regardless of where people are in time and what they do. Or somehow get 1.21 gigawatts in a DeLorean and make like Marty McFly.
Picture this. You're planning your dream holiday, but instead of going to a tropical beach or a bustling city, you're thinking about going to space. Imagine yourself floating, weightless, looking down at Earth from a whole new perspective. The beauty and wonder of our planet become even more evident when you're viewing it from a distance. And now, this dream can come true. Yes, you heard that right. Space tourism. Space tourism is something that has fascinated people for generations. This idea has been around for almost 20 years. We've seen it in movies and read about it in stories. But now, thanks to advancements in technology, it's finally becoming a reality. The first space tourist was a businessman named Dennis Tito. He visited the International Space Station in 2001. Sounds incredible, but here's the catch. Tito's trip cost a mind-boggling $20 million. That's a lot of money, and it made space travel seem like a dream that only the super rich could afford. And it's true that space tourism can be quite expensive. But a lot of time has passed since that day, and now space tourism is becoming more attainable for people who aren't billionaires. Of course, the industry is still in its early stages, but the demand for it is skyrocketing, pun intended. Experts believe that it will continue to grow at an incredible rate of around 40% every year from 2023 to 2030. So, with all this in mind, let's talk about what awaits us in the near future. There are different types of space tourism. First up, we have suborbital spaceflight. It's the trip where you reach an altitude of over 300,000 feet, which is way higher than any airplane can go. In fact, it's so high that you cross a special line called the Kármán line, which marks the boundary of outer space. How cool is that? So it's basically like a quick jump into space and back. So let's talk a bit more about suborbital spaceflight. Imagine you want to go on vacation to Sydney, but you live in London. Normally, it would take you about 22 hours to get there by plane. That's a really long time to sit on a plane. But guess what? Scientists and engineers are working on a new way of traveling that could make the journey from England to Australia super fast and exciting. Suborbital space trips could be used for quick travel between different cities on Earth. Instead of flying in a regular airplane, you would hop on a spacecraft that can go really, really fast. According to a recent study, in the near future, it might be possible to fly from London to Sydney in less than 2 hours. Just imagine how amazing that would be. You would zoom up into space, see the Earth from above, then come back down in no time at all. What an adventure! This study, conducted by the UK's Civil Aviation Authority, was all about understanding how our bodies react to trips outside Earth's atmosphere. To figure this out, the researchers needed some brave volunteers. They recruited 24 healthy people between the ages of 32 and 80. These volunteers were taken to a special training facility called an RAF centrifuge in Cranwell. A centrifuge is a big machine that looks like a giant spinning chair. The volunteers were sat in there to experience a simulation of spaceflight. They were spun around, and their bodies felt the pressure and changes in gravity that happen when you go into space. Almost everyone handled the simulation pretty well and quickly returned to normal. One person even briefly lost consciousness, but it was because of the gravitational forces, and they recovered soon after. Now, this study found some surprising things. Many people think that you have to be really fit and young to handle space flights. But the research showed that older people can actually cope better with all this gravity craziness. So even if we don't develop space tourism in the next decade or two, you'll still have a chance to visit space, even when you get old. Right now, there are two big players in the suborbital spaceflight game: Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin. Both of these companies have rocket-powered systems that can take up to 6 passengers on a thrilling ride. Virgin Galactic has already had 4 successful flights, but they recently ran into some financial trouble. On the other hand, Blue Origin has flown 32 passengers on their new Shepard rocket. The catch is pretty obvious. Right now, space tourism is super expensive. Companies can charge a whopping £350,000 per seat for these flights. But don't worry, things are about to change soon. Experts believe that space tourism will grow in the coming decades. It will be kinda similar to what happened to airplanes. Right now, the cost of a quick trip to space is very high. But as time goes on, the prices will go down. Eventually, space tourism will become more affordable and accessible to people all around the world. That means not just our children, but many of us will have a chance to experience the wonders of space. As technology advances, we might even be able to plan rocket-powered holidays in the future. Can you imagine telling your friends that you went on a vacation to space? What a flex! And now, let's talk about orbital spaceflight. This is the real deal, where you get to spend more time in space. Instead of just a few minutes, you can spend anywhere from a few days to over a week up there. And we're not talking about a measly 300,000 feet anymore. We're talking about going over 1.3 million feet high. So whether you're up for a quick jump into space or a longer adventure orbiting our planet, space tourism has something for everyone. Sky is no longer the limit. But space tourism isn't all fun and games. There are some challenges we need to consider too. First off, let's talk about the environment. Launching spacecraft and rockets takes a lot of energy and can create air and noise pollution. This can seriously harm our atmosphere. We don't want to trade a cool space trip for a damaged planet, right? Next, there's the issue of safety. Space travel is still risky, and accidents can happen. Even with safety protocols in place, there's always a chance of something going wrong. And if it does, the consequences could be really, really bad. Yikes! Space debris is another concern. Every time a spacecraft is launched, it leaves behind debris that can stay in orbit for a long time. As more launches happen, the amount of debris keeps growing. This can cause problems for other spacecraft, and even small pieces of debris can cause damage. Space travel also requires a lot of resources like energy, fuel, and materials. Using up these resources too quickly could have long-term consequences for our planet and future generations. We need to make sure we're not depleting everything in our quest for space exploration. Oh, and let's not forget about all the legal stuff. The rules and regulations for space tourism are still evolving, and it's not always clear who should be responsible if something goes wrong. Plus, there are concerns about how space tourism might affect international space laws and treaties. We don't want legal chaos in the final frontier. And finally, to achieve our dream of taking spaceships like planes, we'll need better infrastructure and logistics. We'll need to build more spaceports where spaceships can take off and land. But don't worry, scientists are actively working to solve these problems. Remember, it's not just us who are excited about space tourism, even governments are joining the fun. Many countries are investing in space tourism too. It's a global phenomenon. So even though there's still a lot to develop in this industry, it's pretty obvious that the aviation industry might go through a big revolution. Traveling long distances would become much quicker and more exciting. And judging by the way development is going, the first big breakthrough in this area will be made in North America. So, get ready for a new era of travel. What an exciting time to be alive, right? The universe is calling, and it's time for us to answer. Stay tuned!
You of course know that the Earth is bathed in sunlight every day. Every day we flicker different light sources on and off, mechanically, without even thinking about it. But imagine that one day, you casually flicker the lights off, fall asleep, and wake up in a completely different era. Let's see how it happened and what it has to do with light. Quantum physics is quite crazy. Classical physics is like a movie projected from start to finish, while the quantum world is like having an ability to take the remote control and manipulate scenes you're watching. Fascinating and mysterious. Let's say you have a regular light switch that can be either on or off. That's like a regular bit in computers, which can be in one of two states, 0 or 1. But in quantum computers, there's a special kind of switch, a switch called a qubit. Unlike the regular bits, a qubit can exist in multiple states at the same time. It can be both 0, 1, and all things in between, like having lights on and off simultaneously. Yeah, our universe has some weird rules. This mysterious property, called superposition, allowed us to do something incredible recently, to reverse time back. at least in a tiny experiment with quantum computers. It's the autumn of 2022. Two groups of scientists, one from Oxford and the other from Vienna, decided to conduct a weird experiment. They played around with a quantum computer to create a program that reverses time. They took a tiny electron and tried to make it go backward for a time for just a fraction of a second. It would be like breaking a billiard ball triangle, where the balls go from order to chaos and then magically reverse. But don't get too excited about time travel yet. Unfortunately, we're not sure if it's possible to recreate it in real life. The scientists cracked some numbers and found out that if we observe 10 billion localized electrons every second for the entire age of the universe, we'd only see something like this happen once. And it would only take the electron back a tiny fraction of a second. So they didn't invent a time machine. They just managed to create this simulation in quantum computers. There's another catch too. The larger the simulation, the more complex and less accurate it becomes. In our experiment, we only used 1 qubit and we managed to reverse time. In a 2-qubit setup, scientists could reverse time only in 85% of cases. And in a 3-qubit setup, it dropped to 50% with more errors. If we keep adding more qubits, we won't be able to pull this off at all. Plus, the success depends on the amount of information the system can store. For example, teleporting a person would be almost impossible because humans have so much information inside them. So, unfortunately, no time machine so far. But there are some possible uses of this discovery. Reversing qubit states in a quantum computer can help correct errors during development, sort of like a little Control-Z in real life. So, it was a tiny step to more exciting discoveries in the future. For example, recently they demonstrated another crazy little thing: send light itself back in time. Now, light isn't mere luminary. It has superpowers that we can't even imagine. The ancient Greeks believed that our eyes emitted visionary beams. Sir Isaac Newton proved them wrong hundreds of years later when he conducted his experiments with prisms. The prism broke the pure white light into a beautiful palette, and that's how we found out that light actually consists of tons of different colors. Many years later, scientists learned even more, that light is a wave. And even later, in the 20th century, we discovered the final paradox, that it's both a wave and a particle, a dual existence in one photon. And the more we learn about light, the more crazy things we find. In 2016, scientists managed to freeze the light in time. They put photons, the tiniest light particles, in ultra-cold atomic clouds. Then they managed to stop it, again, for just a moment. But the fact that it's even possible is already incredible. Then scientists got even bolder. They decided to try not only to freeze the light, but to move its direction in time. They took a special crystal and passed a photon through it, thus initiating the so-called quantum time reversal. As a result, the photon started moving into both the future and past at the same time. The science magic behind this involves two quantum principles: superposition and quantum symmetry. We already mentioned the first one. It allows tiny particles to exist in multiple states at once. Now, the second principle says that even if you flip particles around like a mirror, they'll still follow the same laws. Combining this, scientists crafted a photon that defied the usual forward march of time. But again, it's nothing super fancy yet. This time flip only works for specific particles, not entire humans. And even if it did work for us, rewinding a person even for a second would take a super long time and a lot of energy. But the fact that we can change the light's speed and make it change directions is already amazing. And scientists already see some possible applications to this. For example, Harvard researchers suggest a cool way for spacecraft to zip through space at the speed of light, by hitching a ride on supernovas. Usually, traveling to other stars takes an insane amount of energy, but these scientists have a wild idea. They think that spaceships could use natural events like hypervelocity stars and meteors zooming from supernovas to reach super-fast speeds. It's kind of similar to how sailing ships catch the wind. Advanced civilizations could use these energy bursts to speed up their spacecraft. Imagine a cool spacecraft with solar or magnetic sails harnessing the power of a supernova boom. These sails could use the pressure of the sun's radiation to work, so that we wouldn't need any traditional engines or fuel. Plus, these sails concepts are much lighter and cheaper to launch into space compared to regular spacecraft. The team is already working on a light sail, accelerated by lasers, to reach 20% of the speed of light. It might not sound like a lot, but it's actually an insane speed. Their dream is to help humanity make a swift journey to Alpha Centauri in just 2 decades. Isn't it amazing how many things we can do with light, and not just in our imagination? Let's go to more practical achievements. Recently, a Canadian camouflage company called Hyperstealth Biotechnology Corporation has crafted an actual invisibility cloak. The wizardly cloak doesn't need any power source, is as thin as paper, and won't break the bank. Hyperstealth envisions a world where this material can cloak people, vehicles, ships, spacecraft, and even entire buildings. It's still in a prototype phase, but it already works pretty well. They name this incredible technology quantum stealth. It bends light in a way that can make objects disappear from sight. It can render objects nearly invisible, not only in the visible spectrum, but also in ultraviolet, infrared, shortwave infrared, and it even throws in thermal spectrum blocking for good measure. The technology works thanks to the lenticular lens, a corrugated sheet with outward curving lenses. When stacked in a specific way, these lenses refract light at various angles, creating spots that block light and conceal the object behind the material. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you a full invisibility effect, but maybe someday we'll achieve it, if we keep working on it. If you hide behind it, it will look like a little dirty or blurred glass, but you won't be visible. If you put this veil in front of your body, you'll look like a floating head. Scientific progress is in full swing. Maybe one day we'll be able to reverse time not only for little light particles, but for entire humans. Until then, let's enjoy our invisibility cloaks and stay curious.
Imagine that it's the year 2025, and our planet has completely changed. Rising sea levels, extreme weather, and the ocean becoming more and more acidic are just some of the problems people have been dealing with for years. But in one of the world's largest coastal cities, the situation has become too serious. It was a sunny day in June when a massive earthquake shook the city to its core. The ground beneath people's feet heaved and shook, and buildings swayed dangerously. People ran through the streets in panic, trying to find safety. But as soon as the ground settled, the inhabitants of the city realized the real danger. A wall of water, almost 100 feet high, was rushing toward the city, propelled by the force of the earthquake. The tsunami hit the city with unimaginable force. Entire neighborhoods were wiped out, and thousands of people lost their lives. But here's where things get interesting. In the aftermath of the disaster, the city's authorities realized that they couldn't just rebuild the city as it was before. They needed to be better prepared for the next potential disaster. And so they came up with an incredibly ambitious project to build an underwater city. The goal was to create a self-sufficient, sustainable city beneath the ocean's surface that could withstand any natural disaster. The underwater city would be powered by renewable energy, using tidal power and underwater solar panels. It would be designed to withstand extreme weather and would have its own emergency response systems. The project attracted some of the world's top scientists, engineers, and architects. They worked tirelessly to design the city and carefully considered every aspect of the project. The underwater city would have everything that a typical city had, from schools and hospitals to stores and restaurants. There would be underwater farms where fish and other marine creatures could grow. The city would even have its transportation system, advanced submarines, and underwater tunnels connecting different parts of the city. The project became a shining beacon of hope for people. It showed that even in the face of disaster, we could come together to create something amazing. But as time went on, the project no longer seemed so perfect. The cost of the project turned out to be higher than planned. There were also concerns about how long such a project would exist. After all, the ocean is very unpredictable. And still, the team of scientists and engineers never gave up. After years of trial and error, they finally created the perfect underwater city, a marvel of engineering, a self-contained ecosystem that could sustain people indefinitely. The buildings were constructed from a material that could withstand the immense pressure at the bottom of the ocean, and the city itself was powered by a network of advanced hydroelectric turbines. It wasn't long before the first wave of colonists arrived at the underwater city. There were different people in this group, and each of them had their own reasons for choosing to live in this new world beneath the waves. Some were adventurers seeking a new world to explore, while others were hoping to escape natural disasters raging on dry land. But despite their differences, all these people shared a common goal: to build a new society, one that was in harmony with the natural world. The underwater city flourished, and new discoveries were made every day. The colonists developed new technologies and ways to tame the power of the ocean. They learned to farm the sea and started cultivating underwater gardens that provided them with a steady food supply. But living underwater was challenging. People felt isolated and even claustrophobic. The situation came to a head when a group of activists started to protest against the city's expansion plans. They argued that the underwater city was a threat to the environment it was meant to protect, and that the colonists should focus on reducing their impact on the delicate underwater life. The protests sparked a heated debate among the colonists. Some of them argued that the survival of the city depended on its growth and expansion. Others claimed that the city needed to prioritize the protection of the environment above all else. In the end, a compromise was reached. The city would continue to expand, but the main priority would be sustainability and a responsible attitude to nature. The colonists would do their best to reduce their impact on the environment by using new technologies and following strict conservation rules. And they would also remember the importance of protecting the ocean and its fragile ecosystem. Years went by, and the underwater city continued to thrive. New generations of colonists were born, and they grew up in a world entirely different from the one their ancestors had known. They never saw the world on the surface, but appreciated the beauty and complexity of the underwater world they called home. And as the years passed, the city became a symbol of hope for a world struggling with the devastating effects of climate change. It showed that despite all difficulties, people could come together to create a better world. It is a reminder that the future is not set in stone, and that we can build it sustainably and in harmony with the natural world.
So your phone needs an entire night to charge. Bummer, right? A cool Indian origin researcher has you covered. He's discovered a super speedy way to charge your laptops and phones in just 1 minute. Imagine a battery getting fully juiced while you're brushing your teeth. Not only that, but you can also juice up your electric car in just 10 minutes. Ankar Gupta, the brain behind this discovery, along with his team of researchers at the University of Colorado, Boulder, found a way to make charged particles move really fast through tiny pores. This breakthrough can lead to the creation of super-efficient energy storage devices called supercapacitors. Not only do they charge up super quickly, but they also last longer than regular batteries. According to specialists, the magic lies in the efficient movement of ions. Samsung is gearing up to introduce a game-changer. Meet Bali, a cool spherical home robot designed to win over even the toughest skeptics who could use a helping hand around the house. In the past, Samsung teased us with a peek at what was to come, dropping hints about Bali way back in 2020. But the wait is finally over, as they can take the plunge into creating a robot that's an all-around home assistant. Samsung promises that you can get your very own Bali buddy in 2024. There are no firm details on pricing yet, but they're cutting us some slack by making all of Bali's features subscription-free. However, Samsung isn't alone in the quest for a spot in your living room. LG is hot on their heels, boasting about their own companion robot set to make its grand entrance in 2025. The Squad Solar City car might be the coolest ride in town. This innovative vehicle is the world's first solar-powered car designed for urban and suburban mobility. It's the perfect solution for tackling emissions and congestion in the city, whether you're sharing it with friends or cruising around solo. Imagine the ease of a moped combined with all the comforts and security of a car. That's what Squad offers. Also, say goodbye to parking headaches, traffic jams, and congestion charges. This ride is a significant change. Squad charges itself using solar energy, making it environmentally friendly and cost-effective. With its sleek design and compact size, parking is a breeze. You can fit 3 Squads in the space of 1 regular car. Plus, with swappable batteries and loads of storage space, this car is as practical as it is fun. I bet there's one thing your body does that you definitely take for granted, and it's going number 1. I'm talking about that mechanism we've got that helps us know exactly when it's time to go number 1. However, for some folks with spinal cord injuries or conditions like multiple sclerosis, that connection between the brain and the bladder can get a bit wonky, causing all sorts of issues. Many Things, a cool company from South Korea, has produced a solution that's sure to save the day. They've created a nifty wearable patch that uses near-infrared technology to peer into your bladder and give you a heads up when it's time to hit the restroom. The person wearing it will just get a friendly reminder via a phone alert. Simply slap on the patch, stick it on your lower abdomen, and let the magic happen. The technology isn't out yet, but they're doing their best to make it hit the market as soon as possible. Now get ready to revolutionize your work-from-home routine with Lifespan's Ampera, the ultimate multitasking marvel for all you Silicon Valley trendsetters out there. Say goodbye to boring desktops and hello to a pedal-powered paradise that not only keeps you active, but also charges up your devices like a boss. Just 30 minutes of pedaling and bam! Your phone is halfway juiced up. And if you feel like really going for it, you can even charge up your laptop by cycling like a pro. This device may look like a funky bar stool with pedals, but it's a game changer for your home office setup. According to Lifespan CEO Jackie Wu, the Ampera is the go-to for people working from home who are tired of being glued to their desk all day. So, how do you feel when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror first thing in the morning? Personally, I usually feel a little grumpy and definitely in need of some caffeine. But now, thanks to the BeMind smart mirror from Paris-based tech company Barracuda, clever name, huh? That morning mirror check can actually be helpful. This magic mirror can analyze your expressions and gestures to figure out how you're feeling, and then offer up some personalized mental health coaching to get you on the right track for the day. With the help of AI and natural language processing, the mirror can provide guided meditations, light therapy, and affirmations to boost your mood. According to Barracuda specialists, this new technology has the potential to improve the quality of millions of lives by monitoring subtle changes in health. And that's not all the mirror can do. It can even help guide you through your morning toothbrushing routine and analyze your skin's needs. But the real question is, can it whip up a cup of coffee? Unfortunately, not yet. But maybe that'll be the next upgrade. Meet Custo, the ultimate smart home parcel box that brings convenience right to your doorstep. Imagine having your very own personal custodian, keeping track of all your incoming and outgoing parcels and alerting you when needed. No need to worry about manual input. Custo opens with just a scan of the parcel's tracking number, thanks to real-time checks with over 1,500 courier APIs. You can easily grant access to family and friends through the mobile app, using unique QR codes for one-time or recurring visits. Plus, rest assured that your smartphone will promptly notify you about every delivery. Taking a leisurely stroll is a fantastic way to get your exercise in. But let's face it, sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds. Whether you're getting up there in age, battling some condition, or just feeling a little weak in the muscles, walking can be a real challenge. Enter WIM, the brainchild of South Korean robotics wizards at Robotics. This nifty little gadget straps around your waist and legs, giving you a 20% boost in energy while you walk. This means you can go further and feel less like collapsing at the end of your jaunt. The AI technology inside analyzes how you walk and even predicts your next move, getting smarter with each step you take. Plus, WIM isn't just for those hardcore athletes or folks with medical needs. It's for anyone who just wants to jazz up their daily stroll. The whole shebang weighs just 3 pounds and folds up into a compact little package that you can toss in your bag. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, WIM has an exercise mode that mimics walking through water, giving your muscles a real workout. Well, it's been a long time since we last saw those old physical keyboards on cell phones because touchscreens took over the industry. But wait! Clicks Technology has come up with a brilliant solution for those nostalgic BlackBerry fans. This cool iPhone case brings back that classic keyboard feel, thanks to a team of former BlackBerry, Apple, and Google employees. Sure, it may be a little pricey, costing almost $140 and slightly bulky. But who cares when you can type away like it's 2007? Finally, not all the chapsticks are the same. Lip Cure Beam may look like one, but it's the ultimate beauty gadget. This cool contraption does it all, from diagnosing your lips to giving them the TLC they need, and even adding a pop of color with makeup. The sleek Lip Cure Beam Cap has a special sensor that analyzes your lips' moisture level in a snap. Once you pop off the cap, you've got a handy makeup tool at your fingertips. With a swish and a swash, you'll be on your way to luscious lips in no time. Made with some fancy light-responsive materials, this nifty gadget works its magic by boosting your lips' natural defenses. Nowadays, it seems like everyone in the world has a new best friend who helps them with their schoolwork or jobs, answers whatever question occupies their mind, and even gives life advice if they need any. And the best part is this friend is always within reach. But who is it? Or more like, what is it? It's none other than ChatGPT, of course. But there's a catch. You need to ask the right questions or choose the right words when chatting with it. In other words, you need to lead it in a certain direction to get solid answers. And don't be fooled by how simple that sounds. Trust me, writing on-point prompts is trickier than it looks. But I've got you covered. Here are some awesome tips that will help you get the best results from your conversations. First things first, always a good place to start. ChatGPT is smart, but it can't read your mind. That's why you need to be as clear, specific, and concise as possible in your questions or instructions. This helps it understand the extent of your request further, thereby providing more relevant responses. For example, "Tell me about exercising" is probably not a great prompt that will help you get a detailed and satisfying answer. Instead, it is better to ask, "Can you tell me what the health benefits of doing exercise are?" Secondly, avoid writing ambiguous terms in your prompts. The more context you provide to ChatGPT, the better. By doing this, you'll be helping it understand the topic you're writing about more accurately. Let's say you want to ask ChatGPT if it can write some song lyrics for you. Instead of just asking, "Can you write me a song?" you can include information about what you want the theme of your song to be, what music genre you have in mind for the potential song, and so on. The third tip I have for you is to avoid asking simple yes or no questions, because that will only give you generic and simple answers. On the other hand, if you ask open-ended questions that begin with what, why, how, or could you explain, it's more likely that you'll get a much more nuanced and personalized response. For example, instead of asking, "Is pizza any good?" perhaps the dumbest question in the world, wouldn't you agree? Try asking instead, "What are the popular types of pizza all around the world?" The fourth tip I have is kind of a suggestion. ChatGPT is not a human, and get over it. But that still doesn't make using slang and inappropriate words okay when writing prompts. Yeah, it probably won't get confused, shocked, or offended if you use such language. After all, it is an AI language model, which has the ability to understand and process a wide range of language styles. However, ChatGPT itself says that it may not always provide appropriate responses to such language. Don't believe me? Ask it yourself. And if there's even the slightest chance that a sci-fi movie-like future awaits us, it might be a good idea to treat it with kindness and respect. You know, stay on ChatGPT's good side just in case the Terminator shows up. As for the fifth tip, once you send a question and ChatGPT doesn't give you an answer to your liking, don't give up on it just yet. Try editing your prompt with new and more relevant keywords to help ChatGPT better understand what you're looking for and focus on the critical elements of your question. But sometimes, things might get too much for ChatGPT too. And I don't mean the fact that it receives around 10 million inquiries per day. If your question is something too complex, like how to set up an online store and promote it, it's better to break it down into two questions. If you ask something like, "What steps shall I take to set up an online store?" to be followed by, "What are some effective advertising strategies for an online store?" ChatGPT will be able to give you a more detailed response. In addition, you can also ask ChatGPT follow-up questions to clarify a response or even expand on it. For example, if your initial question is something like, what are the benefits of using AI tools? You can always expand on it with another question, such as, can you provide specific examples of how AI tools can be used in copywriting? The ChatGPT model is called artificial intelligence for a reason. It's always learning and improving, and it can learn how to respond to you better according to the directions you will give. So my 7th tip for you is to give it feedback. Let it get to know you and what you want out of your chat with it. If you think the response you get for your prompt is not what you were expecting, let the model know so that it can understand what went wrong and generate a new and improved response. For instance, let's say you asked ChatGPT to create a social media post about a product you're selling. However, you think the response you got is lacking a sincere tone. You can tell ChatGPT exactly that so it can regenerate the text for you. But remember to always be kind. Getting harsh criticism is not easy for anyone. Maybe promise to send it some chocolate. My 8th tip is don't be afraid to experiment. You literally can't go wrong. It's not like you can only ask a limited number of questions to ChatGPT. So, if you're feeling stuck or bored, let ChatGPT inspire you. Try asking it to generate several types of content, such as stories, poems, jokes, or even images, what we used to call pictures. Even if you don't get anything useful out of your experimental chat, it sure will be fun to see what the model will produce. Here are some examples of fun prompts for you to try. Write a fanfiction about the Hunger Games saga, but include a Hogwarts wizard as one of the tributes. Pretend you're a rapper who has to sing an aria at the opera. Explain to me how you feel before you walk to the stage. Create a game in which the main character is a failed sorcerer's apprentice who accidentally turns their master into a potato. Last but not least, do your research on ChatGPT. Learn what you can get out of it as well as what you can't. ChatGPT certainly has its limitations. The model cannot go beyond the knowledge and information that has been fed into its database. It's also not capable of understanding sarcasm or irony, which can sometimes lead to inaccurate or inappropriate responses. It lacks real-world experience. It cannot draw from emotions or feelings to generate responses. It can only use text-based inputs and cannot process visual or auditory inputs. Language and cultural barriers still apply, since it may not be familiar with certain cultural contexts. But these limitations don't change the fact that it's a technological marvel. As long as you get the hang of writing effective prompts, the things you can achieve with ChatGPT are endless. So here are some cool things you can do with ChatGPT that you might not be aware of yet. You can get your answers from ChatGPT in a tabular form if you ask for it. It's even possible to have them produced in a standard format that other programs such as Microsoft Excel can understand. You can use ChatGPT to create prompts for other AI tools, such as DALL-E. It can translate text into other languages and check grammar and punctuation mistakes for you. You can get it to explain difficult scientific concepts to you, or simplify hard-to-understand texts. ChatGPT can help you make new recipes, get ready for family dinners, plan for vacations, create playlists, give you exercise programs, and help you live your best life. You'll be able to create a new and more effective CV with ChatGPT's help. Careful prompting will even allow you to get answers from ChatGPT in the style of your favorite author. Now, before I leave you rushing to ChatGPT's website to try everything you've just heard, you need to know prompt engineering is actually becoming a specialized skill of its own. So, if you really get the hang of it, who knows? Maybe you'll be the #1 employee every company wants to hire, because even ChatGPT needs a director. They say, whoever they are, the future is just around the corner. Well, no, the future is already here. And these cool new inventions are here to prove it. Who knows? They might just help save you as well as the planet. Now, this robot is unstoppable. And don't worry, it's not going to take over the world or anything. Probably. The thing you are looking at is called a vine robot. What distinguishes it from other soft robots is that it's super tenacious when it comes to making it through difficult terrains and tight spaces, which makes it appropriate for missions like search and rescue. The idea for this device actually came from real vines. The inventors were inspired by how a vine moves and grows, so they started thinking about ways they could replicate the same movement robotically. Eventually, they came up with a simple and elegant design that doesn't require any expensive materials. All they needed was some airtight tubing. Remember the water wiggle toys? I do. The mechanism of their soft robot acts just like that. Then, to make it grow out from the tip, they used compressed air. And just like that, the basics of their invention were ready. It's so easy that you can build one yourself in as little as a minute. Aside from being easy to replicate, their design comes with other advantages as well. It can enter gaps 1/4 of its original size. Sticky surfaces and sharp objects don't really affect it as long as the air pressure is continued to be applied. The inventors, of course, have upgraded their design and created different versions so that the robot will be able to perform various tasks. For example, they added a camera to the robot's tip, which made it ideal for things like archaeology. And the robot was even taken to the Andes Mountains of Peru to investigate some very narrow shafts underneath an archaeological site, and was able to explore 3 of the tunnels successfully. However, the use of vine robots will not be limited to underground. It might be possible to use them for space exploration as well. When blown into something like sand, compressed air fluidizes. In return, this allows the vine robot to burrow into granular materials. So, NASA can use it to study the surfaces of other planets. But it has one more application. A miniature version of vine robots can potentially be used for medical procedures, such as intubation too, making the process faster and easier. Talk about being multifunctional. Can you think of anything else it can be used for? Now, these capsules are not for swallowing. Tiny houses and van life have been the hype for quite some time now. But vans require gas, and tiny houses require some sort of infrastructure. Eco-capsules, on the other hand, require nothing. These egg-shaped micro-units are 100% self-sustainable living pods that give you the freedom to place them wherever you like and to live off-grid without causing any harm to nature. If all non-renewable energy sources were to end today, you could still be able to live the life you're used to in the eco-capsules for up to several months. So, no need to go all survivor mode immediately. Eco-capsules can also be used as scientific research stations or even remote hotel rooms. They are 88 square feet and are equipped with a smart home system. They come with sleeping space for 2, a kitchenette, shower and toilet, storage space, and even electrical outlets. They create their own electricity using a combination of a wind turbine up on a telescopic pole and a roof that is lined with solar panels. Their unique shape allows them to collect rainwater. The rainwater that falls on their surface is gathered in their tanks, where it is then filtered and becomes ready for use. In case there are no rainfalls for a while, the tanks can still be filled from any water source, such as a lake or a river. And in terms of drinking water, additional filters are installed directly on the faucets. The greatest thing about eco-capsules is that they have almost zero emissions and zero ecological footprint. So every eco-capsule inhabitant will basically be taking part in saving the world while they're living in it. This magnetic slime robot may look disgusting and frightening, but it definitely is game-changing. The blob-like robot is made of a water-soluble synthetic polymer, borax, and magnet particles. It is a non-Newtonian fluid that has viscoelastic properties, which means it can act both as a liquid and a solid depending on the level of pressure that's being applied to it. Accordingly, when you touch it quickly, it acts as if it's solid, and when you touch it gently and slowly, it acts as if it's a liquid. Hey, turn the pressure on me and I melt into a puddle, so I'm familiar with this. The tiny particles of magnets within the slime give it the unique ability to move. They can be controlled to make the robot travel, rotate, or form different shapes, such as a C or an O. There's no limit to which direction it can move, and from the looks of it, nothing can stop it from going. It can navigate passages that are as tiny as 0.06 of an inch, move around objects, and reach speeds of 1.2 inches per second. What's even more groundbreaking is that it can stretch 7 times up to its original length, grab onto multiple things simultaneously, and even extend tentacles in different directions. It's shown to be able to conduct electricity and pull wires together, which gives it the capacity to switch and repair circuits. In the future, the creators of the slime hope that it can be used for medical procedures, such as retrieving objects from the digestive system that are swallowed by accident. Sorry, I can't help myself. In addition, if the swallowed object is something toxic, like a small battery, the slime can also hypothetically be used to wrap around it and prevent toxic electrolytes from leaking out into the body. However, the magnetic particles inside the slime are actually toxic themselves, but the researchers have coated them with silica to make the robot safe for this hypothetical application. The coolest thing about the slime robot is the fact that it is self-healing. That means it can bring itself back together even if it is chopped apart, without the help of external sources, and it can maintain its electrical capabilities after healing too. These all sound like some science fiction stuff, but you can relax since the slime is not sentient, at least for now. This is the transparency we all need. When you think of solar panels, you immediately picture large black squares that are mounted on rooftops, right? Well, transparent solar panels are here to change that. Solar panels create energy by absorbing sunlight and converting it into electricity. If the material they are made of is transparent, that means the light will completely pass through them. Accordingly, a transparent solar panel used to be something of a contradictory idea. However, in 2014, scientists from Michigan State University were able to come up with a solution to this contradiction and develop a fully transparent luminescent solar collector that can turn any glass sheet or window into a solar cell. These transparent solar concentrators are composed of clear organic salts. They capture the wavelengths of the solar spectrum that are not visible to the human eye, like the ultraviolet and infrared, while allowing the normal visible light to pass through. These captured wavelengths are then guided to the edges of the cell, where thin strips of conventional solar cells convert them into electricity. The researchers are hoping to make solar energy affordable, therefore widespread. So much so that they are also looking into using transparent solar cells as screens for smartphones or tablets. No more rushing to the charger once you see the 1% on the battery symbol. It's expected that the transparent solar cells will be able to deliver a 10% efficiency once mass production begins. This doesn't appear to be much, but if these panels can be implemented on every window of every home or office building, imagine. They can for sure help to change the future.
Now, as of today, there are around 400 million monthly active users hanging out inside virtual worlds. Doesn't feel all that crowded, but hey, I live on the other side of your screen. So, the sci-fi future we've been waiting for is already here. But technology is not all about fun and games. It's also here to make our lives easier. And these inventions are proof of that. So, buckle up as I teleport you to the near future and show you what one day will look like. You get out of your bed and head to the kitchen for breakfast, or to your smart fridge to be more precise. The world's biggest tech and appliance companies have been working on developing fridges with some mind-blowing features for quite some time now. These can scan the contents stored inside of them, keeping track of what items you're running low on. Their built-in touchscreens will display lots of information for you, from your daily schedule to a slideshow of family photos. Just like any other wireless device you have, you'll be able to connect them to your home's Wi-Fi. Once they are connected to the internet, they can interact with other connected devices in your home. So, you'll even be able to move the show that you were watching in the living room to the touchscreen of your smart fridge and not miss that big twist. This screen will also let you know when and what items you need to reorder, as well as recommend recipes based on the ingredients you already have inside the fridge. The system behind these new and improved fridges will rely on the barcode or the radio frequency identification tags your food packaging will have. These are actually already being used by food manufacturers to manage stock and shipping. By scanning the tags or the barcodes, your fridge can access details such as expiration dates to keep an accurate inventory of your food. And just in case you're wondering how much having a fridge that sends you a shopping list will cost you, it'll range somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000. Your smart fridge warns that the coffee cream is expired. Oops, guess it's time to head to the store. Now, don't worry about searching for your wallet though. You will need neither cash nor a credit card to buy stuff. This will be possible all thanks to the tiny microchips which can be implanted into your hand. Don't get too excited though, one chip won't turn you into a cool cyborg or anything. This chip technology actually already exists in digital house keys, e-tickets, and bank cards. What will make them different now is that once the implantation process is complete, they will get linked to all of your online accounts. This will allow you to open your front door, hop onto the public bus or train, and buy groceries all with a flick of a wrist. You come home and finally have your morning coffee, with cream. Now it's time to actually make yourself something to eat. Such a bore. Or maybe not, thanks to your cyber chef. In 2015, a robotics company shook the culinary world when they presented their new invention, a robot that uses giant hands to cook meals. This master chef comes pre-programmed with thousands of recipes from world-class human chefs, so you won't need to Google how to make the perfect pie crust anymore. The robot that's named Molly will do everything from pour to stir, but unfortunately, it can't prepare ingredients for the recipes it's going to make. At least, not yet. Maybe I've seen too many movies, but it's probably not such a great idea to give a robot a knife anyway, right? However, if you prepare the ingredients yourself and put them inside special containers, it will recognize the ones it's supposed to use. Once it's done preparing food, it will clean up surfaces too. Finally, your own busboy. Molly can plan and adapt its recipes according to your diet preferences and calorie intake limits. However, you can also add your own recipes to its list through the touchscreen, and it can recreate your grandma's casserole with 100% accuracy for you. But you know what? I bet you can hire a personal chef for yourself, and the amount you will pay to get Molly, which is $340,000. And the best part is, they can even prepare the ingredients for you. Now, as the clock strikes noon, you'll receive a text message from your mom. She reminds you about her visit, which will be in an hour. You totally forgot about that. Well, you take a look around your house and realize that you haven't been doing any cleaning for quite some time. But she can't see it like this. This is where super suits might come in handy. The Guardian Exo is a rechargeable, battery-powered, and mechanical full-body exoskeleton that's designed to make you faster and stronger. Using its electrical motors and a state-of-the-art set of 100 ultra-precise body sensors, it combines human intelligence, instinct, and judgment with the endurance and precision of machines. It can increase your strength and allow you to lift up to 200 pounds of weight like you're lifting a feather, and it won't restrict your movement at all. So you can clean under your sofa, bed, or that smart refrigerator pretty easily and quickly before your mom arrives. Talk about productivity. But don't get your hopes up too much. It doesn't have the technology to allow you to stop buses like Superman or jump over buildings like Neo. So it's not really suited to saving the world. But it sure can be a lifesaver if you're moving into a new house. What's great about it is that you can actually get your hands on it now. That is, if you have $100,000 per year to pay its rent. Wow, you finished cleaning so fast that you still got some time left before mommy comes home. Might as well go for a quick run. But thanks to your suit, you didn't burn that many calories while cleaning. So grab your futuristic sci-fi sneakers and let's head out. This creature-like footwear called the Cryptide Sneaker is a fully 3D printed shoe. It's made out of only one material, which is a special polymer called thermoplastic elastomer. This material varies in thickness or thinness in different places, meaning while specific parts of the sneaker become stiffer, the others will remain soft and flexible. So it is ergonomic and comfortable, in addition to being easy and fast to manufacture. The whole shoe can be printed out in one go, and it doesn't require any gluing or stitching. And the best part is, its shape can be adapted to your own foot. The only thing needed for that is your foot's 3D scan. Well, you head back home just in time to greet your mom. She wants the two of you to spend a nice, quiet afternoon together, reading or watching something. You think that's a great idea, and you show your new favorite book to her. She goes through the pages, but you notice she's having a hard time reading the words, squinting her eyes. If only I could zoom into the book pages like I can do with your Instagram photos, she says. Hey, you have just the thing she needs. In 2019, a team of researchers created a pair of contact lenses that zoom in when you blink twice. Each eye movement you make gives distinct electrical signals. The zoom-in contact lenses contain electrodes that can track these signals and respond accordingly. The polymers that they're made of expand when a certain electrical current is applied. So, when you blink twice, the lenses increase their magnification and make everything appear 32% larger for you. However, it looks like you'll have to wait a bit longer to start wearing them. The researchers are still trying to figure out how to make them out of the material regular contacts are made of, so they'll be safer for everyday use. Now, aside from the zoom-in only lenses though, other researchers have been working on creating what they call smart lenses as well. These will have nearly invisible micro-LED displays smaller than a grain of sand, tiny navigation sensors, image sensors, and almost microscopic batteries. They'll help guide you through new cities, give you information about the buildings and the people. Wow, traveling made easy. Aren't you glad you have that trust fund to pay for all this? Wait, no trust fund? Well, you can still have Instagram.
Okay, today I'll show you things you've never seen and tell you stuff you never knew. Wow, all in one video! What a bargain! For example, these soda fountain stations in fast food restaurants. We all see the nice side of it, but have you ever wondered where all this soda comes from? Let me take you behind the scenes. Ta-da! Turns out it's a pile of boxes with tubes. So when the drink runs out, the employees change the box and plug the tube back in. Okay, let's peek into a couple more places where we normally don't belong. This is, for example, what you will see if you cut the screen of a Mac open. And here's what's hidden behind the dryers in a public laundromat. Today, 4 out of 5 households in the US have a dryer, but they weren't so widely accessible when they first appeared in the 1950s because they were way too expensive for the average homeowner. Now, grocery shopping isn't an uncommon practice, and we all have walked past dairy fridges a million times. But have you ever wondered what's behind them? Turns out they're just shelves, and store employees stack the products from the other side. It makes perfect sense, but I never imagined it like this. Now this photo shows what's behind the elevator buttons. Obviously a bunch of cords. The buttons are all wired to a computer that manages the elevator. How does the computer know where the elevator is at a particular time? Well, there are several possible systems, but the most common one is a long vertical tape in the shaft with a series of holes. A sensor counts the number of holes that are passed, and that's how the location is determined. Okay, there are a couple of common things we all know, but the purpose of which remains a mystery to most. So let me share these secrets with you. Those metal rivets on jeans have been there from the very beginning. Jacob Davis, the iconic man who made the first pair of jeans, added copper rivets to places where pants are most likely to rip. Today they have more of a decorative and distinctive purpose since they are a traditional attribute of the jeans everyone knows of. Now I'll bet you know there are extra loops on some shoes. No, they're not for sweat or ventilation. Those are extra loops for laces, just like other loops you use. but they're there to tie your shoe around the ankle to prevent your foot from moving aside. That's especially helpful if you're hiking and ascending and descending hills and trails. Now, have you ever noticed those half-belt thingies many coats and jackets have at the back? Turns out they first appeared on oversized military jackets, so the extra fabric could be collected on the back and the person doesn't stumble when working. Today, those belts are only added for the sake of style and tradition. Most clothing items you buy come with a small bag of fabric or a button, or both. These are actually not useless. Buttons obviously can be replaced if you lost the original one. Pieces of fabric can serve two purposes. You can patch up the hole, but the main purpose is to provide you with a sample of cloth, so you can use it to test different washing products on it and see what happens to the fabric. Now, pom-poms on woolen hats. Did you know that sailors were wearing hats with pom-poms in the 18th century to protect their heads in case they accidentally whacked them? Regular people were wearing them in Scotland, and the color of the pom-pom signified the person's social status. People got back to wearing hats with those cute decorative items during the Great Depression. They're made of spare yarn, so it was a cheap way to decorate your hat. Now, if you haven't noticed, some sidewalks have little plates with bumps on them. Most people don't pay much attention to them, but they're very important for visually impaired people. It signals a slope that then leads to a crosswalk. Also, several patterns signal different things. Have you noticed that the icon of a gas tank on car dashboards has a little arrow next to it? Well, the arrow has a purpose. It points at the side of the car where the gas tank is located. Very useful for forgetful people, like me, who constantly wonder which side it is on, and also for those who drive rentals once in a while. The answer is right in front of your eyes. If you can't find the arrow on your panel, then the fuel hose on the icon indicates the side instead. Now, on the back of many makeup and hygiene products, you'll find this symbol with a marking like 6M, 12M, and 24M. This is the number of months this product can serve you before you should toss it out. You might know that whistles work perfectly fine even if they don't have that ball inside. And yet they have it. But why? Even though there's a sound without the ball, the noise it creates is very flat, and it's not distinguishable enough. When the whistle has a ball inside, then it starts moving with every blow, indicating different pitches and making the noise more noticeable. Lollipop sticks have those squared holes on the end of their sticks for a reason, too. When the candy is put on the stick, some of it goes into the hole, fixating the candy part. This way, the candy ball, or whatever shape, is less likely to fall off the stick. Yeah, it's a bummer when that happens. Measuring tapes have that little metal stud on the end. Most people know that you can use it to stick it to the side of the surface you're measuring. But it's not the only cool thing about it. Look, there's also a small slot, and this slot can be used to hang it on a nail, again to free your hands and keep measuring. The bottom of the end of the tape has a ridged edge. It'll help you make a mark if you don't have a marking tool with you. Have you ever wondered why the tape's blade is curved? Well, it helps to keep it rigid when extended. Pay a closer look at the blade. Apart from numbers and markings, there are also black diamonds. Those are there every 12.2 inches, and they're useful for construction workers to space engineering joists. They can also be useful for you if you want to hang something heavy, for example. The diamond will mark the exact center of a stud, which is placed 16 inches apart from one another. And you can drill something to that center to make sure whatever you hang is safely attached. Now, most coins have ridges, and this is the legacy of the olden days. You see, back in the day, all coins were linked to a silver standard. The amount of silver used in the coin was proportionate to the value of the coin. So, the more actual silver was used to make the coin, the higher its value was. Hi-ho, Silver! Do you remember the Lone Ranger? Silver was the name of his horse. Never mind. Anyway, all the coins had precious metal in them, and some people started shaving off a little bit of silver from it. It wasn't noticeable on one, but if done on several, people could get quite a bit of that precious metal. So, to prevent fraud, the edges were made with ridges for security reasons. So, if someone attempted to shave it off, the ridges would disappear and no one would accept that coin anymore. Smart. Today, no one makes coins out of silver, the coins just represent the value. But the ridges are kind of a cultural heritage now. And finally, a typical plastic milk jug often has inverted circles on one or more of the sides. Not like alien crop circles, this dimple is there to make the jug more resistant and to prevent it from erupting in case the jug falls on the floor. The dimple gives some more space for the liquid to expand. Also, as the expiration date approaches, the microbes in the milk start to expel some gases. As there are more of them trapped inside, the pressure in the jug is rising. The dimple takes care of the expansion and prevents the jug from exploding. And the cows are utterly delighted that their hard work is not wasted. So a whirlwind of events is happening in the smartphone world right now. Samsung is releasing new phones that are going to be packed with novel AI functions. The company promises that the phones will be able to translate languages during calls, search for things by circling them in a picture, and even help you edit photos with Photoshop-like capabilities. This means two main things to us as consumers. We might be preparing to say goodbye to smartphones whatsoever. On the bright side, and we are, we'll get to experience cool new features and improvements in our phones. In 1994, the Motorola 888 was a hit, but it only gave you 15 minutes of talk time a month. Wow. Then Motorola came out with the Razr V3, thin, sleek, and packed with features like texting and games. Ooh. In 2007, Apple changed the world with their first iPhone. It wasn't just an upgrade, it completely flipped the script on how we see phones. It introduced a touchscreen. Before iPhone, most phones had physical buttons or keyboards. It also gave us App Store, made it easy to access internet wherever you were, and of course, had a great built-in camera. Today, we have an iPhone 15 and live in a world where most everyone has a smartphone. Over 2 billion smartphones have been sold all over the world. Nearly 7 out of 10 people on the planet own a smartphone now. The new generation has been using smartphones since birth, so they won't be impressed much by new functions, and they won't strive to buy all new models. And sure, these new models are faster, snappier, and take amazing photos, but if we take a closer look, they're pretty similar in how they look and work. It feels like we hit the ceiling. This is why smartphones might go out of fashion in the future. Progress keeps moving forward. If companies want to make successful sales, they need something groundbreaking. Now, we don't just look for ways to make our screen sharper or our connection faster. We're looking for big, fundamental changes in how we use technology every day. So we have two options: keep improving current phones or introduce something entirely new to the market. There are a couple of crazy ideas. Some TV shows have shown futuristic transparent phones with holographic displays, but that's more of a sci-fi idea than a real trend. The highest priority is improving battery life. Here, graphene batteries show a lot of promise. They could make your phone last a whole week with just one charge. Graphene consists of a super thin layer of carbon atoms arranged in a unique pattern, like a honeycomb. This structure gives graphene amazing properties. It conducts electricity and heat really well. It's super flexible and strong, and it's incredibly lightweight. It can be used to make supercharged batteries. They can store and release energy super quickly, which means your gadgets can charge up in a flash. Companies are already working on batteries, but the main problem is to figure out how to make them in large quantities without spending too much money on production. Phone cameras got a great upgrade. Now we have a 100K zoom and can take pictures of the moon with almost telescope-like quality. But there's still a lot of work to be done on front cameras and image processing with AI. 2010s was a selfie era. Seems so long ago. We introduced front cameras to the market, and suddenly, smartphones weren't just for taking photos of the world around us. They were also for capturing ourselves in the moment. Well, the 20s might become the AI image era. A couple of years ago, AI and machine learning made their way into smartphones. Phones started using AI to enhance photo processing, introducing features like portrait mode and improved HDR processing. And companies don't plan to stop here. With AI, smartphones can now enhance image quality, recognize scenes and objects, and even stabilize shaky videos in real time. With that, together with the rise of VR and 3D capture, the future of smartphone photography looks incredibly exciting. In general, augmented reality, or AR, and artificial intelligence will become the main characters of our future. Technology is becoming more immersive. Tech companies want to blend digital stuff seamlessly with our real world. To do that, they might, for example, replace our phone screens with something cooler and more interactive. Some envision smart glasses or headsets that make technology invisible by integrating it into our surroundings, like Apple Vision Pro. AI shows a lot of promise and will keep improving. That means smartphones might eventually evolve into digital assistants, seamlessly helping us with tasks like ordering food or booking flights. Regular phones just do basic stuff like calls and texts, but AI-powered gadgets can do way more. They can handle messages, voice commands, and even tell you stuff like how many calories are in your food, and pile on the guilt. AI can already come up with tons of text in no time, thanks to cool tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT. And each new model of GPT gets smarter and smarter. Not just in writing, but in real-world stuff too. AI is improving. In the future, it'll be able to do everything, from correcting your yoga poses with a webcam to helping lawyers review contracts faster. It may sound scary, but AI experts say that, although there are healthy concerns about AI, we shouldn't freak out about it. Researchers are approaching it carefully and realistically. AI is very far from actually becoming conscious or anything like that. Instead, we should embrace its potential and not let fear hold us back. Sounds a little naive, doesn't it? Phones aren't the only thing that's anticipating huge changes. Humane Inc. is working on gadgets like the AI Pin. It's a tiny device you wear, like a pin, which you can control with your voice and hand movements. It replaces screens by projecting information onto your hand using lasers. It would be like having a subtle personal assistant with you all the time. Of course, not everyone is on board with that idea. It would mean that this device is tracking you at all times, which raises a lot of privacy concerns. The developers try to solve it by making the device only listen when you want it to and have special sensors to keep your info safe. But it still requires a lot of work. Another promising thing is brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. Now, BCIs are like bridges between our brains and the outside world. They pick up signals from our brains using electrodes, which are tiny sensors, and send those signals to a computer. Then the computer turns those signals into actions. That would help you move a prosthetic hand or even control a smartphone. BCIs are used for two main things: helping people with medical needs and making everyday life easier. In medical settings, BCIs can assist people who have trouble communicating or moving, for example, people with ALS. In daily life, BCIs can help us focus better while driving, improve learning, or control devices with our thoughts instead of our hands. But making BCIs work perfectly isn't easy. One big challenge is making sure the electrodes that pick up brain signals are safe and long-lasting. Some last for years, but others break down quickly. Another challenge is making BCIs wireless. Right now, they need cables to connect to computers, which can be bulky and risky for infection. Researchers are working on better materials to fix all these problems. And of course, there's a design issue. Wearing a cap with cables sticking out in public would be kind of ridiculous. So we also have to figure out how to make BCIs more discreet. Perhaps we could build them into glasses or earphones. Plus, both the BCI and the user need to learn from each other. The BCI learns to understand the brain signals, while the user learns how to control the BCI. It's a continuous learning process, so it'll need a lot of fine-tuning. Despite advancements, there's a debate about whether we've reached peak distraction. A lot of young people are showing less and less concentration levels due to all the modern tech. Some people argue that we should focus on less screen time and more human connection. Smart goggles or glasses could offer a middle ground. They allow for distraction while integrating technology into daily life. Time will show whether we need to prioritize human connection or technological convenience. I think I vote for human connection. How about you?
Have you ever wondered how cool buildings of the future are going to look? Well, hold on tight because artificial intelligence is here to revolutionize the world of architecture. AI is a great sidekick. It can give the architects incredible new tools to create mind-blowing structures that are not only stunning, but also eco-friendly and super efficient. So let's check what our beautiful future might look like. First of all, you know how cities can get crazy busy and overwhelming, right? Well, guess what? AI is here to save the day and make our cities super smart. Imagine you're cruising down the road in your flying car. Yes, we'll have those. Thanks to AI, the traffic flows like a dream. No more endless gridlock. The city knows where the most likely crime spots are and takes proactive steps to keep us safe. It's like having superheroes on every corner. And hey, forget about trash piling up. AI makes sure waste is managed efficiently, keeping our city clean and fresh. They can act as a city manager who can optimize everything from traffic to safety and even waste disposal. They can analyze tons of data from all sorts of places like sensors and social media. With all that information, they can help city planners make brilliant decisions that make our lives better. Okay, so you stroll down the street, and your eyes are instantly captivated by an extraordinary building. Its futuristic curves and features make it stand out from the rest. And it not only catches your eye, but also gives Mother Nature a high five. You might think it was designed by a genius architect, but little do you know it was actually a collaboration between humans and artificial intelligence. Imagine having a super smart design buddy who can whip up thousands of incredible building ideas in a blink of an eye. That's what AI-assisted design software does for architects. It can generate and assess a ton of design options. They take into account stuff like the best materials to use and the perfect placement for the building. Also, by analyzing data and crunching numbers, algorithms can help optimize the building's design. They can ensure it minimizes energy usage, conserves water, and manages waste like a pro. Every building strives to reduce costs, save energy, and promote a better world. The result? Architectural masterpieces that are both jaw-droppingly beautiful and super practical. The cityscape of the future will be dotted with these awe-inspiring structures. Oh, but that wasn't impressive enough for you? Well, how about a stunning, futuristic building that seems to defy gravity? It's not made of traditional bricks and mortar, oh no. This marvel was created using the powers of 3D printing. With the help of AI, architects designed every intricate detail and fed all the important data, like what materials to use and how the site conditions might affect the structure. AI algorithms worked their magic to optimize the design, making it both breathtakingly beautiful and rock solid. 3D printing is basically like having a magical machine that can create awesome structures straight out of a sci-fi movie, and AI jumps in to make sure these structures are not just pretty, but also strong. In the city of the future, 3D printing will become the ultimate architect's tool. It will allow them to create structures that were once impossible to build. From mind-bending shapes to intricate details, the possibilities are endless. But AI isn't just making buildings look great, it also makes them efficient and cozy. Let's say you step into a futuristic office building, and voila! The lights automatically adjust to match your mood, and the temperature is set perfectly for you. These futuristic buildings are capable of sensing and responding to their surroundings, just like you do. They control the lighting, keeping it just right for the time of day. They manage the temperature, so it's always cozy and comfortable. They even keep a watchful eye on security and fix small issues before they become big headaches. So, the smart building knows when people come and go, so it optimizes energy usage accordingly, saving the planet and some cash along the way. Now the cool thing is, all these aren't the only possibilities. How about turning skyscrapers into a vertical forest? Recently, an architect from India got super excited about the power of artificial intelligence. So, he decided to team up with an image bot called Midjourney to create a vision for the future. but instead of a dull, robotic world, they aimed for something spectacular. With text prompts like utopian technology and futuristic towers, the architect and AI got to work. Guess what? Mid-Journey didn't disappoint. It conjured up a world where buildings were covered in lush vertical forests and adorned with shapes inspired by nature. They wanted to create a sustainable future that harmonized with the environment. The architect, Manas Bhatia, is super positive about AI's potential. He doesn't see it as a threat to his job, but as a powerful tool for positive change. He envisions a future where architects and AI collaborate to make breathtaking designs. In his project, Bhatia even asked the AI to imagine symbiotic and hollowed structures, and it responded with pictures of apartments nestled within hollowed-out trees. Imagine a world where the building itself becomes a living, breathing part of nature. Well, Bhatia believes that nature should play a big role in architecture. He loves designing structures that embrace nature's beauty and functionality. From buildings built around trees to facades that regulate temperature, he's all about blending architecture with the natural world. With architects like Bhatia and the superpowers of AI, the future of cities is going to be amazing. So get ready to step into a world where nature and technology coexist in perfect harmony. It's a dream we can't wait to see come true. Or if you're not a big fan of trees, how about this? Skyscrapers that aren't made of solid bricks, but instead, they're inflatable wonders. Zumo, an architectural practice in Barcelona, used the magic of AI to bring these wobbly structures to life. These inflatable superstructures rise above future cities like illuminated balloons in the sky. Here's the best part. These inflatable buildings have sustainability superpowers. You can pump them up to towering heights, flatten them for easy transportation, and rebuild them wherever they're needed. Plus, they're powered by renewable energy, reducing their impact on the environment. Pretty cool, right? Phew, the future is zooming toward us like a rocket. Artificial intelligence can become the secret sauce that makes architects' work extra special. But hey, with great power comes great responsibility. We need to use AI wisely and ethically. For now, we don't have to worry about machines replacing architects. Artificial intelligence still needs a human hand, or else we might end up with buildings that look like mashed up bananas or ice cream cones, unless that's your thing. In addition, humans have one important advantage. They, well, are humans. We need to keep in mind that artificial intelligence doesn't have emotional intelligence. It's a brainy genius, but it can't fully understand the feelings and vibes we humans crave in our spaces. So, we must remember to infuse our designs with that human touch, those warm and fuzzy elements that make us go, "Ah, I feel right at home." And let's not forget that AI is still learning. It's basically just taking its first steps, and we need to be patient and give it time to grow. Rushing things too quickly could lead to wonky designs or buildings that look like a jumbled puzzle. This might look cool if you like avant-garde architecture, but for regular folk, no thanks. So, as the future unfolds at warp speed, let's embrace the wonders of AI in architecture. But let's also remember to balance its brilliance with our own human touch. Together, we can create a future where buildings are not just functional, but also filled with heart and soul. It's an adventure that's out of this world.
The most incredible technology for transporting things and people could be teleportation. Unfortunately, we won't see a teleportation machine in the near future. But we will be able to ride perfect self-driving cars with autopilots on the road and in the air. We will also ride flying motorcycles and take a vacuum train to get from New York to Los Angeles in just a few minutes. So, let's start with self-driving cars. The principle of operation of almost all such vehicles is the same. The car has cameras and sensors, high-precision maps, and radars that scan the situation on the road. A common system unites such machines. Each of them knows where the others are, and this prevents accidents or traffic jams. Of course, today's cars with autopilot are not so impressive. Many people drive them. But imagine what will happen when all vehicles on Earth get united by a common artificial intelligence. People will forget about traffic jams forever. Computers will predict dangerous situations and prevent them. But what will people do on the road if they don't drive cars? The developers will focus on passenger entertainment. the car will be able to tell you the exact time of the trip. Do you need to arrive at noon sharp? Okay, the car may intentionally slow down or increase its speed. It will turn into a real electronic assistant. You can have a meeting, order food, and choose a movie with the help of voice control. The driver's seat has a mini movie theater, a game console, or a mini refrigerator. People who like to communicate with drivers will be able to speak with advanced artificial intelligence. But, of course, there will also be problems. The main one will be the excessive correctness of driving. Scientists and developers are working on humanizing machines. Here's an example. Let's say the car is driving along a busy street and notices a man standing by the road. The car's internal system quickly analyzes the situation and decides that the person is going to step onto the road. The only reaction of the computer is to pull over. The car is slowing down. Another car stops behind it. The first vehicle has created a dangerous situation and a traffic jam. And the man was not even going to cross the street. He was just standing there, waiting for his friend. Deal with this issue. The developers of some companies equipped their cars with a voice. That is, they taught them to honk. In a problematic situation, such a vehicle will press the horn like an angry driver. But the car can slow down if a bird flies by. No horn signal will save you here. On the one hand, the human factor is one of the main causes of road accidents. On the other, a person can analyze a situation much better and choose the right solution. It's unlikely that a machine on autopilot will stop to pick up a guy hitchhiking on the side of the road. Perhaps this guy has gotten into trouble and he urgently needs to leave that place. Or maybe he was bitten by a snake and he needs to go to a hospital. The computer can't know that, but a kind person behind the wheel will stop and offer help. Even if the world gets rid of traffic jams, people will strive for something more, whether on the road or in the air. Many engineers believe that autonomous flying taxis and buses are the future of transport. But gravity-powered flights will appear in the distant future. Such machines will work on the principle of a helicopter. They will be stylish small helicopters equipped with autopilot. Uber and other companies are investing in such technologies, and you might soon be able to use them. Let's say you're late for some event. You open the app and book the helicopter closest to you. Next, you go to the roof, where many aircraft are parked. Then your pilot takes you to the parking lot of your destination. And from there, you quickly reach the location you need. And imagine the same thing, but for many people at once. You arrive at a particular train station and get on a bus with wings. It takes off and follows a long route, taking you and other passengers to another city. And what if such giant buses could take you into space? Not only cars will have propellers, but also motorcycles. There are already hover bikes designed for one passenger. You put on a helmet and sit on a small device. In 2025, you will be able to buy such bikes for $50,000. Unlike flying cars, hover bikes cannot take off to a great height or accelerate to high speeds. But in the future, this technology will evolve. Air taxis and autopilot cars only work in the air or on smooth roads. But what if you need to cross an area with a mountainous landscape or swamps? For such off-road areas, Hyundai has developed the coolest SUV. Instead of wheels, it has legs. This walking vehicle passes through difficult sections and does it with maximum comfort. Each leg has knees and can bend. It will take you to a high hill or even to the top of a volcano. Soon, you won't need to go shopping because stores will come to you. Toyota has already created an unusual car you can turn into a store with any goods. Clothes, groceries, toys, jewelry, whatever. Such vehicles could improve delivery services and provide more comfort to people on trips. But the most incredible technology that will appear in the future is the Hyperloop. It's a train on an aerodynamic cushion. Imagine a capsule traveling at a speed of 760 miles per hour inside a vacuum tube. The interior resembles a spaceship capsule. You take your seat and fasten your seatbelt. Right now, you're accelerating to a speed that exceeds the speed of sound. But inside the cabin, you don't feel this speed. If you watch this train from the side, it will pass by you faster than you blink, and that's how it works. You know air hockey, right? The puck easily flies through the entire area because small holes all over the field release a thin layer of air. The puck doesn't touch the field itself, it levitates. There's no friction, so it just moves around the area. The Hyperloop works on a similar principle, but the air is coming from the capsule, not from the tube. Thus, a tiny distance appears between the capsule's walls and the tunnel. And with the help of an electric motor, the train is set in motion. Okay, we figured out the friction force, but what about air resistance? The fact is that at very high speeds, large objects can't move quickly if the air is very dense. You literally crash into the air, and it limits your speed. Standard airplanes fly at an altitude with much lower air density to develop high speed. That's why the Hyperloop will move inside the pipe. Special equipment pumping the air out of this pipe will work on certain sections of this route. But some air will still be there since creating a complete vacuum requires a lot of energy. A special fan on the train's nose will move all the incoming air under the capsule. The movement of a vacuum train resembles the work of pneumatic mail. This is when parcels pass through pipes installed in a building, and these parcels move through the pipes thanks to air compression. The Hyperloop should work using solar panels installed on the roof of the pipe. Elon Musk has long come up with this idea, but its development has some difficulties. The air gap between the tube and the capsule must always be the same. Any pipe crack, bump, or stone can destroy the entire structure. What if a small earthquake happens somewhere? But if engineers manage to develop this technology, we will be traveling from Los Angeles to New York in just a few minutes.
You're standing on the roof of a control tower at the airport. You see a huge plane coming in for a landing. It's whizzing over your head, but all you hear is the wind whistling. The first sound the plane makes is the scraping of the tires against the asphalt. That's because this giant airplane runs on electricity. It doesn't need to burn tons of fuel. And it doesn't attract the attention of passersby with its noise as it flies over the city. But engineers predict that all-electric airplanes won't appear for another couple of decades. For now, the Dreamliner 787, which can carry 310 passengers and emits no pollution, remains a sweet dream for designers. Let's jump back in time to 140 years ago. In 1883, a French aviation enthusiast made the first ever electric-powered flight. He installed an electric engine on the dirigible. The problem was that the engine weighed as much as a big motorcycle. So, the dirigible couldn't fly long distances and lift many passengers. Okay, back to our time. The problem of heavy engines and batteries remains unsolved. 1 pound of regular airplane fuel contains 60 times more energy than 1 pound of even the most advanced battery. So we'd have to increase the airplane's tank by 60 times and fill it with batteries. But now, the plane is much heavier and it can barely take off. So we have to remove a lot of necessary things from the plane, like several rows of seats, toilets, and all the drinks and snacks, so the plane loses some weight. And now, shove more batteries into all the empty places. The plane can take off now, but it can't land. The plane is designed to take off with a full tank and land with almost nothing. Otherwise, its landing gear just can't take the load and breaks when it touches the ground. So, if the plane needs to make an emergency landing right after takeoff, it'll have to circle over the airport until it's burned enough fuel. It's allowed to land only when it reaches a certain weight. But in the case of batteries, the weight of the plane doesn't change during the flight. So designers had to find another solution. Let's drive this little single-engine airplane into a hangar and take out the old fuel-burning engine, exhaust system, and fuel tank. Replace them with an electric engine, which is much smaller and lighter. Pack all free spaces with batteries. The weight of the final version of the plane should remain exactly the same as the original plane. So now, it can take off and fly without any problems. But it can only do that for short distances. And that's a huge advantage of electric planes. About half of all flights in the world are under 500 miles. There's a lot of flights over distances like that, from New York to Washington, D.C., or from Detroit to Toronto. It's less than 200 miles. And there are huge passenger planes flying on those flights. They take off, gain altitude, and then immediately land. Using these gas burners at such short distances is like putting a huge freight elevator in a 2-story house. It's not profitable and it doesn't make sense. All the conventional airplanes in the world emit about 1 billion tons of CO2 a year. So we can reduce the amount of damage to the environment by half by using electric planes. Many designers are trying to convert some planes into electric ones. For example, the Cessna 208B E-Caravan. The normally 9-seat passenger plane now uses an electric engine. As of 2020, it's undergoing certification. This means that every bolt and wire on the plane is tested for safety. This process could take years. ES-19 is an all-electric 4-engine airplane. The aluminum hull makes it extremely light. Although the price per unit is about $8.8 million, its maintenance costs are 90% less than regular airplanes. And electric power for the plane itself is 50 to 75% cheaper than standard fuel. It'll be able to cover distances of about 220 miles. It's great for traveling in Europe or between remote islands. And it can use runways no longer than 2,500 feet. Given that these planes are practically silent, airports could be built close to city centers. This would cut travel time almost in half. Aviation Alice has taken another step into the future. This 9-seat plane is made almost entirely of composite materials and powered by 3 engines. The inverted boat shape and V-shaped tail make its aerodynamics perfect. It has the length of a school bus and the wingspan as wide as a basketball court. Its maximum takeoff weight is like 2 SUVs. 60% of that weight is batteries. This gives it the ability to fly distances of about 620 miles. That's more than the distance from New York to Detroit. The best thing about the Aviation Alice is the economy. Flying 9 passengers and 2 crew at top speed will cost about $200 an hour. For conventional planes of the same class, like Cessna and Beechcraft, that number would be about 5 times bigger. The problem of short-range flights can be solved by a network of abandoned airports in the United States. There are about 2,000 of them and 5,000 public airports. Each of them can be equipped with a charging station, just like a gas station. A half hour at a charging station for Alice would be equal to 1 hour of flying in the air. So while passengers are getting off and on and their luggage is being loaded, the plane can build up enough energy to fly. So, small planes are good as an air taxi or private jet. But you need at least 20 Aviation Alice planes to replace a full-fledged Boeing 737 with 180 passengers. The price for one electric bird is $4 million. So that's $80 million versus $100 million for one Boeing. So the Alice wins again. Zunum Aero tried to build an electric plane that could carry 50 passengers. The company first went for a 12-seat ZA-10 airplane. It was a hybrid, powered by the combined work of traditional and electric engines. Engineers relied on evolving batteries and predicted that their plane would be able to travel 1,000 miles. So it could fly from LA to Seattle on a single charge. And it would only have to cost $500,000 more than Alice. The big 50-seat plane should have worked on the same principle. But the company lost funding before they could introduce the finished plane. Maybe we can create an all-electric plane that doesn't have any moving parts at all. It would use ionic wind. MIT engineers created a lightweight model of an airplane with a wingspan of about 16 feet and no engine. There's a metal structure similar to a fence between the wings of the plane. A battery powers this structure with negatively charged electricity of 40,000 volts. There's the same structure in the back of the wing, which was positively charged. When the structure is powered, its front end captures negatively charged electrons from the air, just like a magnet. The electrons then fly toward the positively charged structure at the back. As the ions move, they collide with air molecules millions of times. This creates thrust, just like a regular airplane. And as it moves, it keeps charging the particles in the air and pushing them back. Engineers from MIT did about 10 test flights. Their plane was able to fly almost 200 feet on ion thrust. But their model airplane only weighed 5 pounds, and it flew without a pilot. The lightest manned airplane in the world, the BD-5J, weighs 7 times more, so it should have giant wings to fit this metal structure for ion thrust. And the voltage in that structure would have to be much higher to create enough thrust to let the plane take off. So this technology needs many years to develop and refine before it can be tested on real-scale airplanes. Right now, one of the most reliable and economical electric engine schemes is to work together with traditional propellers or turbines. An airplane can use an electric motor for a quick and quiet takeoff. It'll gain altitude and leave the airspace of a densely populated city. Then, it'll start the main engines, which run on fuel combustion. This will allow the plane to reach high speed and fly a long distance. During this time, the plane's batteries will be charged by the generator powered by the main engine. When it's time to land, the main engines stop and the plane lands completely silently with the electric engine. So, we're gradually moving toward making airplanes fully electric and silent. Then we can locate airports closer to city centers. This will save travel time and reduce the amount of harmful gases emitted into the Earth's atmosphere. The year is 2045. You arrive at the airport and get your face scanned with a biometric device that replaces your ID or boarding pass. Friendly robots pick up your luggage and direct you to your gate. You do some duty-free shopping in virtual reality and get in line to board the Flying V. You've picked your favorite seat in the second cabin. In there, you can choose between a staggered seat or a bed, even in economy class. You're walking past the group seat section, where friends and colleagues can spend time together face-to-face and discuss things. You're on a long-haul flight today, so you went for a bed to get all comfy on your way to your destination. With the Flying V, you can't choose to sit over or by the wing because all the passengers sit right in the wings of the plane. The cargo hold and fuel tanks are also in there. The plane looks like an arrowhead, with two wings stretching out behind the cockpit in a V shape. The oval cabin is pressurized and has an aerodynamic design. Everything inside the plane is made as light as possible. Thanks to it, it's more fuel efficient than other aircraft. The idea of this new revolutionary plane came to a student who was working on his thesis at Berlin's Technical University. It was further developed by the Delft Technical University in the Netherlands and supported by KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. They decided to make long-distance flights more sustainable. The Flying V shares many characteristics with the Airbus A350, the most advanced aircraft as of 2021. It can also seat 314 passengers and take up 1,700 square feet of cargo. It's smaller and shorter than the A350, but has the same wingspan of 213 feet, slightly longer than the height of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It means it can fit in the same already existing gates, runways, and hangars at airports worldwide. It has less inflow surface area, which means less resistance. Less resistance means less fuel needed for the same distance, 20% less than the Airbus A350 to be precise. But it gets even better. KLM plans to make it completely emission-free with electrically boosted turbofans. They also believe they could keep manufacturing costs pretty low compared to other unusual and efficient new designs with unique components. Experts tested a 50-pound, 10-foot scale model of the new plane in July 2020. They controlled it remotely, and it successfully took off at a rather low speed, but had a rough landing. It means there's still work to be done to make future flights comfortable for all passengers, including those sitting close to the side of the aircraft. Airbus has spent months testing another unusually shaped plane. It's just 10 feet wide. That's about 3/4 the length of a Volkswagen Beetle. It looks like a flying wedge and could start a revolution in the aerospace industry, improving environmental performance. They believe the remote-controlled Maverick with a blended wing design has great potential. The fuselage in regular planes is basically useless weight and needs massive wings to stay aloft. With the new design, the whole airframe gives lift. It means the plane can be lighter and smaller and still carry the same weight. One prospective problem with Maverick could be boarding and leaving the aircraft. The wide central section could slow it down, and passengers in the middle would be far away from emergency exits in case they need them. At the same time, it would give passengers additional legroom and larger aisles. Another Airbus invention is an XLR plane with a third fuel tank that will travel up to 10 hours without the need to refuel, or 5,400 miles without stopping. That's 1,000 miles more than other narrow-body models. Boeing has spent years working on its own revolutionary concept, the transonic truss-braced wing. This plane has folding wings that are 170 feet long, longer than an average commercial plane. It's possible thanks to the truss used in plane construction that supports the extra-long, ultra-thin wing. It also makes the plane more aerodynamic and allows increasing its cruise speed up to some jetliner speed. The new design is going to need 9% less fuel than regular ones. It could even run on battery power for short-range flights and partially use electric power to get the needed thrust for longer distances. Switching to a gas and electric battery hybrid would help make flying cheaper. A Denver-based startup named Boom is determined to produce the first civilian supersonic jet after the collapse of Concorde almost 2 decades ago. They're partnering with Rolls-Royce to develop the engines for the future plane. It would fly at twice the speed of sound, but would be slower over land. It would still take passengers from the East Coast to London or from the West Coast to Asia in half the current time. They promise the fares won't be much higher than regular business class tickets, with an added bonus of oversized windows for all passengers. Boeing designed the biggest twin jet in the world for long-distance international routes, the Boeing 777X. It's meant to carry between 384 and 426 passengers and will have a unique folding wing. It will bend up at a right angle to fit the wide body into tight docking spaces at airports. The plane will have a wider cabin, dimmable windows, and supersized overhead bins. Some designers and aircraft engineers have been experimenting with plane concepts with no windows at all. One of them is called Ixion and has cabin walls lined with flexible high-definition screens, projecting 360-degree real-time video footage of what's going on outside the aircraft. 2 cameras mounted on the jet's wings would capture the image. The screens are supposed to be low voltage and powered by solar panels on the plane's roof. They could also use parallax technology to split the screen and let passengers see different views at the same time. 2 strips running along the jet's body would fit the air conditioning and cabin lighting. Windowless private jets of the future could have high-definition screens programmed by passengers using their mobile phones, letting them choose what they want to see on each side of the jet. Removing the windows would reduce the weight of the aircraft and give more flexibility to the jet's interior design. It would also minimize engine noise by insulating the fuselage and also make the aircraft safer without the holes needed to install windows. The only exception would be the conventional window in the cockpit for the pilots. Airbus plans to reimagine the plane's interior with zones for passengers to do different types of activities. An area for business meetings, another one for socializing or playing virtual reality golf and other games. The screens in the social area could be connected to passengers' gadgets, letting them control what's on the screen and give presentations. They could also include a revitalizing zone where passengers can sit back and chill in a smart seat that will offer various pleasures, from a mechanized massage to aromatherapy. There will also be more planes with individual sleeping cabins, showers, and bar areas, and even full-size in-flight spa zones. Airbus is planning to build beds for economy-class passengers in cargo holds. They will be passenger modules of the same size and shape as cargo containers. Airlines will be able to load them aboard for long-haul flights and take them out for shorter flights or when they need extra cargo space. The modules will look somewhat like upscale hostel rooms, with all surfaces in glossy white and curtains for privacy. Economy class passengers will be able to rent one of the beds for less than the price of a business class ticket. They'll be able to stay there at all times, except for takeoff and landing, or rent a bunk for half of the time on flights of 12 hours or longer. Large aircraft already have bunk beds for crew members downstairs to let them rest on long-haul flights. They could also use cargo holds to host lounges, conference rooms, medical suites, and play zones for the youngest passengers in the future. Swappable modules could replace regular seats. Some airlines are experimenting with a meet and seat program. It lets you share your social media profile with other passengers on your flight. You can pick someone to sit next to based on your professional or personal interests, or just your likes. This option could spread to other carriers in the near future. If you've ever seen the second Terminator movie, you probably remember this guy, T-1000. The main character, so brilliantly played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, had a mission and it was to protect Sarah and John Connor from that robot. It's much stronger than any human, bending steel with its bare hands and throwing much larger robots around. But its coolest feature is the ability to change its shape. Made of liquid metal, it can recover even after severe damage. You can say it's just another sci-fi movie, but hear me out. Scientists managed to create something similar to T-1000 in real life. They invented a material, which is a mix of metals with some pretty insane properties. Magnetoactive phase transitional matter, or MPTM. The robot looks more like a super tiny, Lego-sized model of its on-screen prototype. This little guy can melt in your hands at 85.6 degrees Fahrenheit and then go back to its original shape. The test run has shown it can break out of a small cell using this superpower. The secret behind what looks like magic is physics. A magnetic field generates an electric current inside one of the metals the real-life T-1000 is made of. Some heat is then produced, and solid material turns into liquid. The tiny robot can also show some other talents under the influence of magnetic fields. It can jump 20 times its height, rotate at 1,500 revolutions per minute, and develop some impressive speeds. Do you feel like you need this little guy in your life? Well, you can't buy the original yet, but you can still get yourself a Terminator action figure or building kit. As for the material that can melt and solidify again, it will have more practical uses than entertaining the audience. Imagine a tool that can reach even the tightest corners. You turn it into its liquid form. It enters the hole and then becomes solid again and seals it. Sounds like any engineer's dream. It can also serve as a welder on an LED circuit because gallium, the metal it's made of, is a great electricity conductor. And it could potentially save lives by delivering meds and removing foreign objects from patients' organs. MPTM isn't the first material that will make Terminator fans say, "Wait, I've seen it somewhere before." Meet nitinol. It's a super elastic material that remembers its original form and always goes back to it, no matter how much you bend it. So far, it's successfully used to make stents. Those are small mesh tubes that hold arteries open for those who need them. Nitinol does this job perfectly, as it can bend when it needs to under a cool temperature and goes back to its original state upon heating. It's also super durable, perfect to last a long time. That's why it's also used to produce braces for teeth, mechanical watch springs, inserts for golf clubs, and here comes my favorite, self-bending spoons used in magic shows. Another Terminator reality that has become ours too is the massive use of drones. They deliver your last-minute order of that bag you need for your vacation, take the best footage for news shows and Uncle Tim's wedding, assist search and rescue teams, transport aids, monitor wildlife, and inspect otherwise non-accessible parts of buildings. Okay, I feel it's easier to list what they don't do. In the second part of the movie, Schwarzenegger's character explains that his CPU is a neural net processor, and the more contact with humans he has, the more he learns. If you feel like rewatching the movie by now to refresh your memory, you can always get a copy on Amazon. Anyway, what the Terminator is talking about sounds a lot like real-life neural networks, doesn't it? Those are modeled kind of like a human brain. The idea is to train the computer to do tasks by analyzing thousands of training examples. An object recognition system learns what a car or a poodle looks like by looking at many, many images of those and singling out some patterns. Once they're trained enough, they can do all sorts of things, from predicting weather and the situation on the stock market to recognizing faces and choosing what Netflix shows to recommend to you. It all sounds good, but admit it, the coolest thing in the movie is those scarily human-looking robots. Many humanoid robots are now still in the project stages, but there are some which are pretty much alive and kicking. Some of them work at factories and warehouses because they're really good at logistics and manufacturing. They conduct whole orchestras, dive under the sea, help older people. Hey, is there something they aren't good at? Should we start worrying that we'll be replaced by them soon? While AI is becoming better and better, it's still luckily unlikely. Machines still don't have emotional intelligence and decision-making skills like humans. They're super smart, but they simply have no motivation to take over the world unless humans tell them to do so. And even if one AI system or app decides to break free and rule the universe, it's unlikely powerful enough to do it. So breathe out. One thing those humanoids have mastered, though, is a sense of humor. When a man approached a robot at a trade show in Las Vegas, asking if she had a boyfriend, the machine responded that she was unfortunately not on the market, as robots don't have relations. Getting rejected by AI. Talk about 21st century problems. The heartbreaking robot's name was Amica. Its creators, the British company Engineered Arts, call it the world's most advanced humanoid robot. It's so detailed and lifelike that I'm not surprised that guy wanted to hit on it. Amica has a whole emotional spectrum and can show realistic astonishment and surprise and whatnot. It even yawns, shrugs, blinks, and scratches its nose. Amica's eyes have cameras, so it can remember your face and track it. That's why talking to it doesn't feel like staring at a gadget screen. It can also detect objects like a human finger in front of its face, so it will react when you approach it. This beauty is not hard to operate at all. It relies on cloud-based firmware that updates itself, and even a totally non-tech-savvy person can use Amica. You can control your robot from anywhere by simply logging into its software system. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, and your robot assistant is greeting guests and presenting your project without your physical presence. Its AI is so advanced that you can use it to work on 2 different tasks at the same time. It can even single out a more important task and make it its priority. If you feel like purchasing an Amica, be prepared to pay over $100,000. Atlas, a humanoid designed by Boston Dynamics, can run up and down the stairs, jump between levels, and pick up, carry, and throw heavy things at the right distance. Atlas can grip things using 1 fixed finger and 1 moving finger. All of this makes it an ideal warehouse helper. Its latest achievement is an inverted 540-degree multi-axis flip. It was as complicated for engineers to program the robot to do it as it sounds. And Atlas doesn't just move like a parkour champion. It can also plan the most efficient route to get from point A to point B, considering the surroundings. It also remembers when it makes a mistake, or has to overcome some obstacle. It activates all of its components to maintain balance. Because all those components are 3D printed, Atlas isn't that heavy, just 196 pounds with a height of 4 feet 9 inches. Since this smart robotic guy is a research platform, you can't purchase it just yet. The engineers keep improving it, and maybe soon it will be able to walk out of the warehouse and start its own logistics company. And then you won't want to purchase Atlas, but could end up sending it your resume.
Earth. The year is 500 million CE. 2 million years ago, the sun splashed a huge bundle of energy into space. It destroyed Earth's magnetic field and burned the entire surface of our planet. Now, our world resembles a lifeless desert. All the oceans have dried up. Rivers of magma flow all over the surface. And the sky is filled with black clouds of ash. Humans have already colonized other planets, so everything is okay. In the middle of this apocalypse, a small crystal covered with volcanic dust lies under a thick layer of solidified magma. But it's not just a crystal. It's a 5-dimensional memory crystal. In simple words, this is a very cool flashcard. But what is it doing here? And what data is hidden on it? It stores everything you need to know about humans as a biological species. The year is 2024 CE. Scientists have recorded information to a unique memory card. They've engraved the sequence of the entire human genetic code in the very structure of this 5D crystal. The invention consists of nanoscale voids in a vitreous silicon dioxide material. I can continue with other complex scientific words, but let's better focus on the properties of this crystal. The small flashcard can hold hundreds of terabytes of information, thanks to nanotechnologies, even though all the information about the human genome is only 800 megabytes of data. But the coolest thing is the crystal's invulnerability. You can throw it in an oven with a temperature of 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the same temperature of lava. You can put it in the freezer or leave it in the ice of Antarctica. You can throw it off a cliff or trample it underfoot. The information will remain readable. Of course, reading it requires special equipment, such as an optical microscope or a polarizer. In any case, if a representative of another civilization finds the crystal, they will probably figure out how to use it. Another cool thing is that the crystal material can be stored for many billions of years, which makes it one of the most reliable information storage systems in the world. Now, the crystal is stored in Austria, in the Memory of Mankind Archive, along with other important holders of information about humanity. We need to preserve all this for future generations, or extraterrestrial civilizations, or in case an apocalypse happens and people forget who they are and where they come from. Also, the 5D crystal will help resurrect humanity in case of its destruction. If some advanced intelligence from another galaxy finds the crystal and reads the information, it will be able to recreate humankind. Hopefully, they'll have the technologies capable of creating life. Take a look at this number. That's 10 septillions. This number is many times the age of our universe, and it would take 10 septillion years for the most powerful computer to solve a problem called random circuit sampling. This task has no practical purpose and doesn't solve any difficult issues. Scientists created random circuit sampling to measure the computing power of computer chips. And here's what it's all about. Google has created a quantum computing chip called Willow that could solve random circuit sampling in a few minutes. A stunning result that can significantly accelerate the development of all technologies on Earth in the coming years. A chip the size of a small mint candy was invented in California. Already, scientists are confident that Willow is capable of making a huge leap in the field of medicine development. What will happen next? The creation of thermonuclear reactors, the enhancement of AI, the invention of endless energy sources, and much more. For example, quantum computing and AI will be able to read MRI images at the atomic level. Quantum computers will evolve much faster than traditional ones. There's a lot of technical data that shows why quantum computers are so superior. But let's check out one crazy idea that explains quantum computers' advantages. It says that quantum chips exist in many parallel universes at once, and this corresponds to the idea that we live in a multiverse. In simple words, a quantum computer can simultaneously perform more tasks in different states. It's hard to understand, but here's an example. Take a rat and put it in a large maze. It will study every corridor and every corner and spend a lot of time before exploring the maze completely. But a quantum rat will be able to explore every corner of the maze at the same time as if it has many clones or one common mind. A quantum computer does the same thing. See this robot walking awkwardly around the room? And here is another robot on wheels that randomly drives from side to side. Who do you think controls these robots? A scientist? AI? A program? The answer is much stranger. These robots are controlled by mushrooms. Mushrooms are interconnected through mycelial networks that resemble human brain cells. They transmit impulses to one another and communicate in ways unknown to us. But what if they could transfer these impulses to something mechanical? Scientists from the USA decided to conduct such an experiment. They took the king oyster mushroom and grew its mycelium into the electronics of a robot. Of course, its motion was chaotic, but scientists still believe the experiment was a success. They managed to transfer the electrophysiological activity of the mushrooms to the outside world. That is, they created a biomechanical device. Mold and fungi are very tenacious. They can survive in harsh conditions and adapt to environmental changes, which is why they're so convenient to use in cybernetics. Scientists have taken a small step toward big discoveries. If today, mushrooms can transmit a signal and make a robot move, then, in the future, scientists hope to develop better ways of communicating with a live system. With this technology, we will know the reactions of mushrooms to various environmental changes. For example, mushrooms will be able to react with nerve impulses in places where toxic waste is released. We will record these signals and neutralize the effects of pollution. What if mushrooms can also respond to changes inside our bodies? Imagine swallowing a capsule with mushroom spores that are connected to nanorobots. Mushrooms enter your organism, scan your body, and transmit information to a computer. Then the doctor prescribes treatment for you. But the coolest thing is that in the future, the technology could go even further. What if we could translate mushroom signals into words and communicate with them? It might sound too psychedelic, but why not? We all know that plastic is not the best thing for our planet. The good news is that scientists have created living plastic, which can decompose itself within several months. In 2016, a special type of bacteria was discovered at a plastic recycling plant in Japan. The bacteria are capable of degrading a particular type of plastic. Over the years, scientists have discovered other similar bacteria and upgraded them, making bacteria eat plastic more greedily with the help of produced enzymes. It would be awesome if soon people would use self-destructing plastic much more often. You've probably seen how doctors examine the brain in the movies or in hospitals. They apply a sticky gel and put a helmet with a dozen electrodes connected to the head of a patient. These electrodes are, in turn, connected to a computer that displays information about the activity of the human brain. All this is a rather inconvenient and time-consuming process, but recently, scientists have found a much easier way: temporary electronic tattoos. A liquid ink applied to the head is as effective and accurate as conventional electrodes. And unlike them, ink is much easier to customize. Electronic tattoos are set up faster, and they're more comfortable for the client. The technology is a real breakthrough in the field of diagnosis and brain monitoring. The special ink is made from conductive polymers. Doctors spray it from a custom inkjet printer directly onto the patient's head. The next step for scientists is to make the ink more convenient so that it can be applied to different types of hair and hairstyles.
On October 30th, 1759, the inhabitants of the Middle East were jolted awake by an earthquake. Cracks appeared in the walls of their homes, roofs began to crumble. People ran out of their homes and gathered in open areas. But because of strong shocks, they kept losing their footing and falling. A month later, there was another earthquake, but it turned out to be even stronger. Trees broke, houses collapsed, deep cracks appeared in the ground. The disaster lasted for 2 minutes. Oases, roads, and cities were destroyed. Incredibly, Baalbek's ancient buildings withstood earthquakes. Some historians state that this majestic and mysterious place was built during the Roman Empire, but many researchers disagree. Whatever the truth is, the city is one of the main archaeological phenomena of humankind. The most amazing building of Baalbek is the Temple of Jupiter. The inhabitants of the Roman Empire believed that Jupiter held power over lightning and thunder. The building looked like a platform with 54 columns. A massive roof rested on these columns. Today, you can only see 6 70-foot-high columns. Each of them consists of 3 sections and resembles a pencil. The cores of these pencils were made of lead. This made the columns exceptionally strong. Each of these pieces of stone weighed an incredible 80 tons. That's the weight of 35 Ford Explorer SUVs. Look, this is the largest block in the Great Pyramid of Giza. But compared to the blocks from Baalbek, it doesn't even look that impressive. The foundation under the Temple of Jupiter was preserved. That's how specialists figured out it consisted of about 25 monolithic stones, weighing 450 tons each. It means that the blocks from Baalbek weigh almost 4 times more than the blocks from Egypt. There are 3 more enormous limestone blocks in the foundation. They weigh 800 tons each. This is more than twice the weight of a Boeing 747 plane. Ancient builders must have had a hard time carving such giants from a piece of stone. And after that, they also had to pull them to the construction site and lift them to a significant height. Repeating these logistics would probably turn out to be a nightmare for present-day builders. To do this amount of work, they would need modern equipment. But Baalbek's constructors didn't have trucks, cranes with circular saws, or electricity. How did the builders of the past manage to do this? Scientists have a theory that includes ropes, winches, and lever systems. Naturally, the engineers of the past made all the gadgets from wood. Around 3,000 feet away from the ruins of the temple complex, there's a quarry. Archaeologists suppose that's where the stones for the construction were cut. They found a block of limestone there. It seemed to be too large, even for this incredible place. The monolith got called the Stone of the South. It was 65 feet long and 13 feet wide. The ancient builders didn't have time to completely separate it from its mother rock. A group of scientists from Austria estimated that this piece of limestone weighed more than 1,000 tons. That's like 3 Boeing aircraft or 160 African elephants. There was another surprise awaiting the archaeologists near the Stone of the South. It was the second monolith that weighed more than 1,200 tons. But the ancient builders didn't stop at that. They continued to work. In 2014, in the same quarry, German archaeologists unearthed a block that weighed 1,650 tons. No one has figured out yet why people of the past needed a piece of stone that weighed as much as 125 school buses. It's also unclear how they were going to move this giant and why they didn't finish the job. In any case, this third monolith is the largest processed piece of stone in human history. There are more questions than answers. Some researchers believe that people of the past had high-tech equipment. Others don't think so, but are eager to understand how the builders managed to move those stones. There's a huge number of ancient buildings and artifacts on the planet. Lots of them make researchers scratch their heads. Near the Pyramid of Djoser in Egypt, archaeologists have found a network of tunnels. This place is called Serapeum. It contains 24 sarcophagi weighing from 70 to 100 tons. The giant boxes are carved from a single piece of granite and covered with heavy lids. The sarcophagi are perfectly symmetrical. To the touch, their walls are as smooth as glass. Even with the current level of technology, this is very difficult to do. But the ancient Egyptians managed this feat. The Lycurgus cup is a priceless artifact and example of ancient nanotechnology. It's made of glass that can change its color. If you put a source of light in front of the cup, it turns green. If the light is behind the goblet, it becomes deep red. In this case, the figure of Greek king Lycurgus turns pale purple. Scientists understood how this color change worked only at the end of the 20th century. Through microscopes, they saw nanoparticles of silver, gold, and copper. They had been added to the glass matrix. Thanks to this, you can observe a color change called dichroism. Interestingly, the gold and silver were grounded into a fine dust. It's almost impossible to do this by accident. Most likely, the ancient experts knew for sure what they were doing. Bolivia has a curious place called Puma Punku. It looks as if an ancient giant played there with an enormous construction set. And after the game, they forgot to put the pieces back into the box. But there are no giants, and the huge stone blocks were carved by ancient builders over 1,500 years ago. Some of the rocks weigh 100 tons. The blocks were brought to an altitude of almost 13,000 feet above sea level from the quarry 60 miles away from the construction site. There's no forest in that area. This means the builders couldn't use trees to make wooden rollers. The monument belongs to the Inca civilization. Scientists are sure they didn't know anything about wheels. In 1992, the inhabitants of a Chinese village decided to drain a pond. Their ancestors had been using it to wash clothes and catch fish for hundreds of years. They kept pumping the water out for 17 days. At the bottom of the reservoir, they made an unexpected discovery. The villagers saw an entrance to a cave going down to a depth of 100 feet. The incredible find was named the Longyu Caves. Unknown builders carved out 320,000 square feet of galleries. There are separate rooms, bridges, pools, and columns that support the ceiling. The walls of the cave are covered with strange carved lines and patterns. Scientists haven't found any information about who built the caves and why they did it. The construction technology also remains a mystery. Antonio Stradivari lived in Italy in the 18th century. He created musical instruments. More than 600 of his works have survived to this day. 500 of them are violins. One of the instruments was sold at auction for $16 million. The violins made by this master sound clear and deep. Researchers can't understand why Stradivarius instruments produce such unique sounds. Perhaps it's all about the varnish the master used to cover the violins. The answer may also lie in the wood the instruments are made of. In those days, Europe had a cold climate. Because of this, the wood became denser, and the instruments made of it sounded especially pleasing to the ear. In the Indian city of Delhi, there's a 23-foot high pole. It weighs 6.5 tons and is made of 98% wrought iron. The 1,600-year-old pillar has no signs of rust or decay. Scientists believe that the monument is so well preserved thanks to the dry weather and the chemical composition of the metal. It might be resistant to corrosion. And still, researchers don't know how the blacksmiths managed to make an iron pillar that's not afraid of rust. It seems like a tough feat, even for modern metallurgists. The Al-Nasla rock is divided into 2 parts by a perfectly straight slit. Each boulder stands on a small pedestal. Some people believe this is the evidence of ancient laser technology. But geologists think the split happened due to the ground shifting or natural vibrations that occurred under the rock. This process led to the appearance of the crack. It had been deepening for thousands of years, and gradually, the natural monument took the form you can see today.
In 1925, magazine publisher Hugo Gernsback created the Isolator, a bizarre-looking helmet for people who need to concentrate properly. Its first version was made using wood and felt. But Gernsback wasn't satisfied since it didn't block all the external sounds as well as he had hoped. Then, he redesigned the device, removing the wood and adding glass so users could see through it. But a problem emerged. The helmet could only be worn for about 15 minutes at a time before the user became drowsy. 38 years later, Gernsback presented the Tell-Eye glasses, a handy, pocket-sized portable TV set. You might find them funny-looking, but to be honest, today's VR goggles are only slightly less geeky. The Tell-Eye glasses weighed about 5 ounces and were built around small cathode ray tubes that ran on low-voltage current from tiny batteries. The device had a separate screen for each eye, which meant it could display stereoscopic images, working pretty much like 3D glasses. Gernsback promised that users faced no danger of being electrocuted, but, well, people didn't take his word for granted. Meet the Beauty Micrometer, also known as the Beauty Calibrator. This 1930s technology definitely looks like a Clockwork Orange device, but it was actually designed to enhance people's beauty. The specialist placed this thing around a person's head, and the flexible metal strips helped calculate facial measurements with great precision. The inventor was particularly focused on 2 measurements. The heights of the nose and forehead should be the same, and the eyes should be separated by the width of one eye. If the Beauty Micrometer spotted an imperfection, they suggested using makeup to correct the situation. So this device was supposed to be a big deal for actresses and actors working in the movie industry, but it was a flop, and it definitely didn't become a nationwide craze. Sheet masks are all about aesthetics nowadays, but they were way more bizarre looking in the past. Take this ice mask created in the 40s by the legendary Max Factor Jr., who basically invented makeup for movie stars. He hoped that actresses would go to great lengths to get a mask like this to reduce facial puffiness, but that really never happened. Some people find those dimples around a smile to be the most charming and attractive thing ever. So, an inventor came up with the Dimple Maker back in 1936, which basically looks like some medieval dental equipment. The instructions were pretty simple. The user should stand in front of a mirror, smile to position the dimple maker correctly, and wear it 2 or 3 times a day for 5 minutes each time. The idea was to repeat the process until dimples appeared. But no surprises here, the thing couldn't really make dimples look better or create new ones. In fact, the Medical Association even stated that this device could bring you serious health issues instead of conventional beauty. Even the most experienced men can injure themselves by shaving from time to time. So, probably only the bravest would pay to use this mass shaving machine, which allowed barbers to shave a dozen men simultaneously. This device appeared in a pilot for a TV series in the 60s. but it was invented in the 19th century. Still, the commercial success was never meant to happen, as this machine would simply never adapt to different face shapes. Another dangerous invention was the shoe-fitting fluoroscope. When shopping for shoes, instead of the usual try-on routine, people would step onto this cool machine that uses X-rays to show a real-time moving image of your feet inside the shoes. It's like a high-tech way to make sure your kicks fit just right. It sounds pretty cool, but these machines were actually dangerous, since they were blasting out a crazy amount of radiation. I mean, during a quick 20-second view, you'd get a dose way above safe levels. Even though the radiation was aimed at people's feet, a bunch of it would scatter around, exposing everyone nearby. So, salespeople who spent hours around these things were getting a whole year's worth of radiation in just 2 hours. There were reports of injuries, so this invention was finally banned in the 70s. If you've got 2 left feet, you can learn how to dance with YouTube videos, or call your partner to help you out by using these Siamese dancing shoes. This invention made its debut in a 1981 mail-order catalog, intending to help couples stay in sync on the dance floor. But they were more likely to have you both tripping to the ground. Let me introduce you to the auto skates, an invention dating back to the 40s. The inventor used to kickstart the motorized roller skates as if firing up a lawnmower, and they could run up to 160 miles on a single gallon. But they had a little issue with the brakes, which could, not brake at all. So, a co-pilot was necessary there. And by co-pilot, I mean someone brave enough to chill on a little stool behind the driver and help brake using their own feet. If someone needed to take their whole family for a spin, they could just hop on the Goofy bike. This invention, unveiled in Chicago in 1939, was a bike for 4 people that also doubled as a mobile sewing station. When this quirky ride was parked, the sewing machine's legs kept the tall cycle from toppling over. But I wouldn't be so close to it, just in case. The auto skates and the Goofy bike seem like relatively safe ways to get around compared to a barrel. In 1901, a schoolteacher named Annie Edson Taylor celebrated her 63rd birthday by taking a journey down Niagara Falls inside a 5-foot-high wooden pickle barrel. Following her daring feat, 15 copycats tried using the same device to conquer Niagara Falls, but not all of them succeeded. Nowadays, attempting such stunts is prohibited due to the significant risks involved, and the fine is approximately $10,000. Back in 1929, someone apparently thought that wood veneer sheets could be the next big thing in bathing suit materials. They were advertising a kind of DIY and recycling method, and one of the promotional videos featured a girl explaining how she crafted her outfit using leftover veneer from building a house. The funny thing is that they even claimed that, so far, none of the bathing suits had warped or cracked. But let's be real. The wood would need some serious waterproofing to pass the test of time. This invention didn't stick around for too long, probably because they didn't exactly win any awards for the most flattering design. About 10 years later, men were seen rocking periscope top hats in London. This clever invention gave short people a slight boost to peek over heads in large crowds. The images bounced from a mirror at the top of the hat down to another mirror right in front of the eyes through a hole in the brim. But while they seemed a great idea for parades and sporting events, they simply weren't practical in any other situation. Whether you're feeling lazy or tired, there's really no excuse to skip your piano practice, all thanks to this 1935 invention, the foldable piano. The instrument sits at the foot of the bed, and the keyboard can be pulled out like a drawer, bent over on hinges until it's at the right angle for the player's hands. Is it safe though? All it takes is the piano not being totally secure and bam! A disaster is about to happen. Let's say the well-being of kids wasn't exactly a top concern for the minds behind the Mercury Maze. This 1978 invention was a handheld game, where kids were supposed to rotate it and tilt the puzzle to guide a silver blob of mercury along a path to the center of the maze. Yes, we're referring to the toxic and health hazardous mercury in a kid's toy. What could possibly go wrong?